All right, we're on. We're live. We're not live. We're recording. For the Quarantine Theater Company, bringing to you not live, Inglorious Basterds, TERDS. I will be playing Aldo Raines and Mike Myers. We have all the time in the world. All the time. We have George Graham on scene description, and other people. We have Jennifer as bunch of
Bunch
people.
of stuff that I don't know because I ain't seen this movie.
Stiglet, haven't seen the movie. Charlie as Marcel and Donnie Donowitz. We have Eric as Colonel Landa, Academy Award winner. Logan as Mr. Fassbender. Anne as National Treasures, Bridget von Hammersmark. Jess as Shoshana. And Jeremy, we already did that. Let's do it. Go, George, go.
All right, I'm going. Hang on.
Woo!
Inglorious Basterds by Mr. Tarantino and Jeremy. Exterior, dairy farm, day. The modest dairy farm in the countryside of Nancy, France, what the French call cow country. We read a subtitle in the sky above the farmhouse. Chapter 1. Once upon a time in Nazi-occupied France. This subtitle disappears and is replaced by another one. 1941, 1 year into the German occupation of France. The farm consists of a house, a small barn, and 12 cows spread about. The owner of the property, a bull of a man, French farmer, brings an axe up and down on a tree stump, blemishing his property. However, simply by sight, you'd never know if he's been beating at this stump for the last year or just started today. Julie, one of his 3 pretty teenage daughters, is hanging laundry on the clothesline. As she hangs up a white bedsheet, she hears a noise. Moving the sheet aside, she sees, from her POV, a Nazi town car convertible with 2 little Nazi flags attached to the hood, a Nazi soldier behind the wheel, a Nazi officer alone in the back seat, following 2 other Nazi soldiers on motorcycles, coming up over the hill on the country road leading to their farm.
Papa!
The French farmer sinks his axe in the stump, looks over his shoulder, and sees the Germans approaching. The farmer's wife, Charlotte, comes to the doorway of their home, followed by her 2 other teenage daughters, and sees the Germans approaching. The farmer yells to his family in French, subtitled in English.
Get back inside and shuts the door. Julie, give me some water from the pump to wash up with. Then get inside with your mother.
The young lady runs to the water pump by the house. She picks up a basin and begins pumping. After a few pumps, water comes out, splashing into the basin. The French farmer sits down on the stump he was previously chopping away at, pulls a handkerchief from his pocket, wipes sweat from his face, and waits for the Nazi convoy to arrive. After living for a year with the sword of Damocles suspended over his head, this may very well be the end. Julie finishes filling the water basin and places it on the windowsill.
Ready, Papa.
Thank you, darling. Now, go inside and take care of your mother. Don't run.
Julie walks inside the farmhouse and closes the door behind her. As her father stands up from the stump and moves over to the windowsill with the water basin, the sound of the engines of the 2 motorcycles and car get louder. The farmer splashes water from the basin on his face and down his front. He takes a towel off a nail and wipes the excess water from his face and chest as he watches the 2 motorcycles, the 1 automobile, and the 4 representatives of the National Socialist Party come to a halt on his property. We don't move into them, but keep observing them from a distance, like the farmer. The 2 Nazi motorcyclists are off their bikes and standing at attention next to them. The Nazi driver has walked around the automobile and opened the door for his superior. The Nazi officer says to the driver in unsubtitled German,
Is the property of Pierre Labadite?
Yes, Herr Colonel.
The Nazi officer climbs out of the back seat of the vehicle, carrying in his left hand a black leather attaché case.
Herman, until I summon you, I am to be left alone.
As you wish, Herr Colonel.
The SS colonel yells to the farmer in French, subtitled in English.
Is it the property of Pierre Labadite?
I am Pierre Lepedit.
The SS colonel crosses the distance between them with long strides and says in French with a smile on his face,
It is a pleasure to meet you, Monsieur Labadite. I am Colonel Hans Landa of the SS.
Colonel Hans Landa offers the French farmer Pierre Lapetite his hand. The Frenchman takes the German hand in his and shakes it.
How may I help you?
I was hoping you can invite me inside your home and we may have a discussion.
Interior Lapetite farmhouse day. The door of the farmhouse swings open, and the farmer gestures for the SS colonel to enter. Removing his gray SS cap, the German steps inside the Frenchman's home. Colonel Landa is immediately greeted with the sight of the farmer's wife and 3 pretty daughters standing together in the kitchen, smiling in his direction. The farmer enters behind him, closing the door.
Colonel Landa, this is my family.
The SS colonel clicks his heels together and takes the hand of the French farmer's wife.
Colonel Hans Landa, VSS, madame, at your service.
He kisses her hand, then continues without letting go of his hostess's hand.
Please excuse my rude intrusion on your routine.
Don't be ridiculous, El Colonel.
While still holding the Frenchwoman's hand and looking into her eyes, the SS colonel says,
Monsieur Lapetite, the rumors I have heard in your village about your family are all true. Your wife is a beautiful woman.
His eyes leave the mother and move to the 3 daughters.
Each of your daughters is more lovely than the last.
Merci. Please have a seat.
The farmer offers the SS colonel a seat at the family's wooden dinner table. The Nazi officer accepts the French farmer's offer and lowers himself into the chair, placing his gray SS cap on the table and keeping his black attaché case on the floor by its feet. The farmer, the perfect host, turns to his wife and says,
Charlotte, would you be so good as to get the colonel some wine?
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Lapetite, but no wine. This is a dairy farm. One would be safe assuming you have milk.
Oui?
Milk is what I prefer.
Very well.
The mother of 3 takes a carafe of milk out of the icebox and pours a tall glass of the fresh white liquid for the colonel. The SS colonel takes a long drink from the glass, then puts it down loudly on the wooden table.
Monsieur, to both your family and your cares, I say, bravo. Please join me at your table.
Very well.
The French farmer sits at his wooden table across from the Nazi. The women remain standing. Colonel Landa leans forward and says to the farmer in a low tone of confidentiality,
Monsieur Lapetite, what we have to discuss would be better discussed in private. You'll notice I left my men outdoors. If it wouldn't offend them, could you ask your lovely ladies to step outside?
You're right. Charlotte, would you take the girls outside? The colonel and I need to have a few words.
The farmer's wife follows her husband's orders and gathers her daughters, taking them outside, closing the door behind them. The 2 men are alone at the farmer's dinner table in the farmer's humble home.
Monsieur Lapetite, I regret to inform you I've exhausted the extent of my French accent. To continue to speak it so adequately would only serve to embarrass me. However, I've been led to believe you speak English quite well.
Oui.
Well, it just so happens I do as well. This being your house, I ask your permission to switch to English for the remainder of the conversation.
By all means.
They now speak English.
Monsieur Lapetite, while I'm familiar with you and your family, I have no way of knowing if you are familiar of who I am. Are you aware of my existence?
The farmer answers,
Yes.
This is good. Are you aware of the job I've been ordered to carry out in France?
Yes.
The colonel drinks more milk.
Please tell me what you've heard.
I've heard the Fuhrer has put you in charge of rounding up the Jews left in France, who are either hiding or passing for Gentile.
The SS colonel smiles.
Now, the Fuhrer couldn't have said it better himself.
But the meaning of your visit, pleasant though it is mysterious to me. The Germans looked through my house 9 months ago for hiding Jews and found nothing.
I'm aware of that. I read the reports of this area, but like any enterprise, when under new management, there's always a slight duplication of efforts, most of it being a complete waste of time, but it needs to be done nevertheless. I just have a few questions, Monsieur Lapetite. If you can assist me with answers, my department can close the file on your family.
Taking his black leather attaché case and placing it on the table, he takes out a folder from inside. He also extracts an expensive black fountain pen from his uniform's front pocket, opening the folder and referring to it.
Now, before the occupation, there were 4 Jewish families in the area, all dairy farmers like yourself. The Levits, the Delaracs, the Rollins, and the Dreyfuses. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, those were the Jewish families among the dairy farmers. Herr Colonel, would it disturb you if I smoked my pipe?
Looking up from his papers,
Please, Mr. Lapidite. It is your house. Make yourself comfortable.
the farmer gets up from the table, goes to a shelf over the fireplace, and removes from it a wooden box that contains all the fixings to his pipe. He sits back down at the table with his Nazi guest. As the farmer loads the bowl of his pipe with tobacco, sets a match to it, and begins slowly puffing, making it red hot, the SS colonel studies the papers in front of him.
Now, according to these papers, the Jewish families in this area have been accounted for except the Dreyfuses. Somewhere in the last year, it would appear they have vanished, which leads me to the conclusion that they've either made good their escape or someone is very successful hiding them. What have you heard about the Dreyfuses, Monsieur Lapidite?
Only rumors.
I love rumors. Facts can be so misleading, where rumors, true or false, are often revealing. So, Monsieur Lapidite, what rumors have you heard regarding the Dreyfuses?
The farmer looks at Londa.
Freely, Mr. Lapidite. I want to hear what the rumors are, not who told them to you.
The farmer puffs thoroughly on his pipe.
Again, this is just a rumor, but we heard the Dreyfuses had made their way into Spain.
So the rumors you've heard have been of escape.
Yes.
Were the Lapidites and the Dreyfuses friendly?
As the farmer answers this question, the camera lowers behind his chair to the floor, past the floor, to a small area underneath the floorboards, revealing 5 human beings lying horizontally underneath the farmer's floorboards. These human beings are the Dreyfuses, who have lived lying down underneath the dairy farmer's house for the past year. But one couldn't call what the Dreyfuses have done for the last year living. This family has done the only thing they could, hide from an occupying army that wishes to exterminate them.
We were families in the same community, in the same business. I wouldn't say we were friends, but members of the same community. We had common interests.
The SS colonel takes in this answer, seems to accept it, then moves to the next question.
Having never met the Dreyfuses, would you confirm for me the exact members of the household and their names?
There were 5 of them. The father, Jacob, wife, Miriam, her brother, Bob.
How old is Bob?
30, 31.
Continue.
And the children, Amos and Shoshana.
Ages of the children?
Amos, 6, I believe, and Shoshana was 15 or 16. I'm not really sure.
Cut to exterior dairy farm day. The mother and her 3 daughters finish taking the laundry off the clothesline. They can't hear anything going on inside. The 3 Nazi soldiers watch the 3 daughters. Back to Londa and Perrier.
I guess that should do it.
He begins gathering up his papers and putting them back into his attaché case. The farmer, cool as a cucumber, puffs on his pipe.
However, before I go, could I have another glass of your delicious milk?
But of course.
The farmer stands up, goes over to the icebox, and takes out the carafe of milk. As he walks over and fills the Nazi colonel's glass, the German officer talks.
Monsieur Lapidite, are you aware of the nickname the people of France have given me?
I have no interest in such things.
But you are aware what they called me.
I'm aware.
What are you aware of?
That they call you the Jew hunter.
Precisely. Now I understand your trepidation in repeating it. Before he was assassinated, Henrik apparently hated the moniker the good people of Prague bestowed on him. Actually, why he would hate the name the Hangman is baffling to me. It would appear he did everything his power to earn it. But I, on the other hand, love my official title, precisely because I've earned it.
As the quote-unquote Jew hunter enjoys his fresh milk, he continues to theorize with the French farmer.
The feature that makes me such an effective hunter of the Jews is, as opposed to most German soldiers, I can think like a Jew, where they can only think like a German, or precisely a German soldier. Now, if one were to determine what what attributes the German people share with the beast, it would be the cunning and predatory instinct of the hawk. But if one were to determine what attributes the Jews share with the beast, it would be that of the rat. Now, the Führer and Goebbels' propaganda have said pretty much the same thing. Where our conclusions differ is I don't consider the comparison an insult. Consider for a moment the world a rat lives in. It's a hostile world. Indeed, if a rat were to scamper through your front door right now, would you greet it with hostility?
I suppose I would.
Has a rat ever done anything to you to create this animosity you feel toward them?
Rats spread disease. They bite people.
Unless some fool is stupid enough to try and handle a live one. Rats don't make it a practice of biting human beings. Rats were the cause of the bubonic plague, but that was some time ago. In all your born days, has a rat ever caused you to be sick a day in your life? I propose to you, any disease a rat could spread, a squirrel could equally carry. Yet I assume you don't share the same animosity with squirrels that you do with rats, do you?
No.
Yet, they are both rodents, are they not? And except for the fact that one has a big bushy tail, while the other has a long, repugnant tail of a rodent skin, they even rather look alike, don't they?
It is an interesting thought, Herr Colonel.
However, interesting as the thought may be, it makes not one bit of difference to how you feel. If a rat were to scamper through your door this very minute, would you offer it a saucer of your delicious milk?
Probably not.
I didn't think so. You don't like them. You don't really know why you don't like them. All you know is you find them repulsive. What a tremendously hostile world a rat must endure. Yet not only does he survive, he thrives. And the reason for this is because our little foe has an instinct for survival and the preservation second to none. And that, monsieur, is what a Jew shares with the rat. Consequently, a German soldier conducts a search of a house suspected of hiding Jews. Where does the hawk look? He looks in the barn, he looks in the attic, he looks in the cellar. He looks everywhere he would hide. But there are many places it would never occur to a hawk to hide. However, the reason the Führer brought me off my Alps in Austria and placed me in the French cow country today is because it does occur to me. Because I'm aware what tremendous feats human beings are capable of once they abandon dignity. Oh, may I smoke my pipe as well?
The farmer's cool facade is little by little eroding.
Please, Colonel, make yourself at home.
The Jew hunter removes both a pipe and a bag of tobacco fixings. The pipe, strangely enough, is a calabash made from an S-shaped gourd with a yellow skin and made famous by Sherlock Holmes. As the Nazi colonel himself with his smoking, he continues to hold court at the Frenchman's table.
The other mistake the German soldiers make is their severe handling of the citizens who give shelter and aid the Jews. These citizens are not enemies of the state. They are simply confused people trying to make some sense out of the madness war creates. These citizens do not need punishing. They simply need to be reminded of their duty in wartime. Let's use an example. Monsieur Lappetite, in this war, you have found yourself in the middle of a conflict that has nothing to do with yourself, your lovely ladies, or your cows. Yet here you are. So, Monsieur Lapetite, let me propose a question. In this time of war, what is your number one duty? Is it to fight the Germans in the name of France to your last breath? Or is it to harass the occupying army to the best of your ability? Or it is to protect the poor, unfortunate victims of the warfare who can not protect themselves? Or is it the number one duty in this time of bloodshed to protect those very beautiful women who constitute your family?
The colonel lets the last statement stand.
That was a question, Monsieur Lapetite. In this time of war, what do you consider your number one duty?
Protect my family.
Now, my job dictates that I must have my men enter your home and conduct a thorough search before I can officially cross your name off of my list. And if there are any irregularities to be found, rest assured, they will be. That is, unless you have something to tell me that will make the conducting of a search unnecessary. I might add also that my information that makes the performing of my duty easier will not be met with punishment. Actually, quite the contrary. It will be met with reward. And that reward will be your family will cease to be harassed in any way by the German military during the rest of your occupation of your country.
The farmer, pipe in mouth, stares across the table at his German opponent.
You're sheltering enemy of the state, are you not?
Yes.
You're sheltering them underneath your floorboards, aren't you?
Yes.
Point out the areas where they are hiding.
The farmer points out the areas on the floor where the Dreyfuses are underneath.
Since I haven't heard any disturbance, I assume that they're listening. They don't speak English.
Yes.
I'm going to switch back to French now, and I want you to follow my masquerade. Is that clear?
Yes.
Colonel Landa stands up from the table and, switching to French, says, subtitled in English,
Monsieur Lapidite, I thank you for your milk and your hospitality. I do believe our business here is done.
The Nazi officer opens the front door and silently motions for his men to approach the house.
Monsieur Lapidite, I thank you for your time. We shan't be bothering your family any longer.
The soldiers enter the doorway. Colonel Landa silently points out the area of the floor the Jews are hiding under.
So, Monsieur and Madame Lapidite, I bid you adieu.
He motions to the soldiers with his index finger. They tear up the wooden floor with machine gun fire. The little farmhouse is filled with smoke, dust, splinters, screams, bullet casings, and even a little blood. With a hand motion from the colonel, the soldiers cut off their gunfire. The colonel keeps his finger in the air to indicate silence. Underneath the floorboards, the entire Dreyfus family lies dead, except for 16-year-old Shoshana, who miraculously escaped being struck by the Nazis' bullets. With her dead family surrounding her, the young girl goes for freedom, represented by a wire mesh vent. Colonel Landa hears a movement underneath the floor, looks down, and sees a shape moving forward between the planks and the floor.
It's a girl. Nobody move.
The vent is kicked open. The girl springs out. Colonel Landa crosses the floor and opens it. Shoshana is perfectly framed in the windowsill. Shoshana runs towards the woods, farmhouse and colonel in the window in the background. Filthy bare feet are slapping against wet grass. Close up on Shoshana's face, same as an animal being chased by a predator. Flight, panic, fear. From Shoshana's POV, we see the safety of trees getting closer. Colonel Landa is framed by the window. He takes his Walter and straight arm aims at the fleeing Jew, cocking back the hammer with his thumb. From Colonel Landa's POV, we see the fleeing Shoshana. Close up on Colonel Landa, slow zoom into his eyes as he aims. Profile close up on Shoshana, mad dash for her life. Colonel Landa changes his mind. He yells to the rat fleeing the trap, heading for the safety of the woodpile, and then in French, subtitled in English.
Au revoir, Shoshana!
Shoshana makes it to the woods and is gone. The SS colonel closes the window. Exterior dairy farm, day. The Nazi town car drives away. Exterior Nazi town car moving, day. Colonel Hans Landa sits in the backseat of the convertible that's speeding away from the French farmhouse. Landa speaks to his driver in German, subtitled in English.
Carmen, I sense a question on your lips. Out with it.
Why did you allow an enemy of the state to escape?
Oh, I don't think the state is in too much danger, do you?
I suppose not.
I'm glad you see it my way. Besides, not putting a bullet in the back of a 15-year-old girl and allowing her to escape is not necessarily the same thing. She's a young girl, no food, no shelter, no shoes, who's just witnessed the massacre of her entire family. She may not survive the night. And after word spreads about what happened today, it's highly unlikely she will find any willing farmers to extend her aid. If I had to guess her fate, I'd say she'll probably be turned in by some neighbor, or she'll be spotted by some German soldier, or we'll find her body in the woods, dead from starvation or exposure, or perhaps she'll survive. She will elude capture. She will escape to America. She will move to New York City, where she will be elected the President of the United States.
The SS Colonel chuckles at his little funny. Fade up. Chapter title appears. Chapter 2. Inglorious Bastards. Fade up. Exterior somewhere in England. Day. A bunch of soldiers are lined up at attention. Lieutenant Aldo Rain, a hillbilly from the mountains of Tennessee, walks down the line. He recruits the men the Germans will later call the Bastards. Lieutenant Aldo has one defining physical characteristic, a rope burn around his neck, as if once upon a time he survived a lynching. The scar will never once be mentioned.
My name is Lieutenant Aldo Rain, and I'm putting together a special team. And I need me 8 soldiers. 8 Jewish American soldiers. Now, y'all might have heard of rumors about the Armada happening soon. Well, we'll be leaving a little earlier. We're going to be dropped into France dressed as civilians. And once we're in enemy territory, as a bushwhacking guerrilla army, we're going to be doing one thing and one thing only: killing Nazis. The members of the National Socialist Party have conquered Europe through murder, torture, imitation, and terror. And that's exactly what we're going to do to them. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I sure as hell didn't come down from the goddamn Smoky Mountains, cross 5,000 miles of water, fight my way through half Sicily, and then jump out of a freaking aeroplane to teach the Nazis lessons in humanity. Nazi ain't got no humanity. They're the foot soldiers of a Jew-hating mass murderer maniac, and they need to be destroyed. That's why any and every son of a bitch we find wearing a Nazi uniform, they're gonna die. We'll be cruel to the Germans, and through our cruelty they will know who we are. They will find the evidence of our cruelty in the disemboweled, dismembered, and disfigured bodies of their brothers we leave behind us. And the Germans will not be able to help themselves from imagining the cruelty their brothers endured at our hands, and our boot heels, and the edge of our knives. The Germans will be sickened by us. The Germans will talk about us. And the Germans will fear us. And when the Germans close their eyes at night, and their subconscious tortures them for the evil they've done, it'll be thoughts of us that tortures them with.
Stops pacing and looks at everybody.
Sound good?
They
Yes,
all
sir.
say,
Yes, sir.
What I like to hear. But I got a word of warning to all would-be warriors. When you join my command, you take on a debit you owe me personally. Every man under my command owes me 100 Nazi scalps. And I want my scalps. And all y'all will get me 100 Nazi scalps taken from the heads of 100 dead Nazis. Or you will die trying.
cut to exterior mountaintop chalet day. A huge chalet on a misty mountaintop in Bavaria. A subtitle appears. Bavaria, Berchtesgaden, Hitler's private lair. Interior Berchtesgaden day. In a huge room, Adolf Hitler pounds on a big table with his fist as he rants at 2 German generals. They speak German, subtitled in English. Nein, nein, nein! How much more of these Jew swine must I endure? They butcher my men like they were fish bait. This pack of filthy degenerates are doing what the Russian army didn't, and Patton's army couldn't, turning soldiers of the Third Reich into superstitious old women.
Just the cowards among them, I fear.
Hitler pounds furiously on the desk with his fist. No, no, no! I have heard the rumors myself. Soldiers of the Third Reich, who have brought the world to their knees, now pecking and clucking like chickens. Do you know the latest rumor they've conjured up in their fear-induced delirium? The one that beats my boys with a bat. The one they call the Bear Jew is a golem. An avenging Jew angel conjured up by a vengeful rabbi to smite the Aryans.
I fear this is just soldiers' gossip. No one really believes the Bear Jew is a golem.
Why not? They seem to be able to elude capture like an apparition. They seem to be able to appear and disappear at will. You want to prove their flesh and blood? Then bring them to me. I will hang them naked by their heels from the Eiffel Tower, and then throw their bodies in the sewers for the rats of Paris to feast. The Fuhrer sits down at the table to compose himself and wipe his greasy black hair out of his face. It's a bad Jew. He hits the button on the intercom on his desk. Christ! Kleist's voice comes out of the intercom.
Yes, mein Führer.
I have an order I want relayed to all German soldiers stationed in France. The Jew degenerate known as the Bear Jew henceforth is never to be referred to as the Bear Jew again. We will cease to aid the Americans any longer in their attempt to undermine the German soldier's psyche. Did you get that, Kleist?
Yes, mein Führer. Do you still wish to see private butts?
Who and what is a Private Butts?
He's a soldier you wanted to see personally. His squad was ambushed by Lieutenant Rain's Jews. He was its only survivor.
Indeed, I do want to see him. Thank you for reminding me. Send him in. Cut to exterior French woods, day. Close-up face of a dead German soldier. His head lies on the ground, horizontal. A hand reaches into the frame, knocks aside the dead German patriot's helmet, and grabs a handful of the cadaver's blonde hair. A large knife enters the frame and begins slicing along the hairline. This process is called scalping. After slicing is complete, the scalp easily peels off like a banana skin. German prisoners, Private Butts and Sergeant Rockman on their knees, hand behind their heads. Private Butts narrates the scene in German, subtitled in English.
Werner and I was the only ones left alive after the ambush. While one man guarded us, the rest moved the hair. All the bastards wore German scalps, tied to their belts.
Close-up scalps hanging from belts.
They not only took valuables,
We see quick cuts of rings, weapons, an iron cross, and somebody digging out a gold tooth with a knife being removed from dead Germans.
they also took identification papers.
Close-up identification papers taken from the inside pocket of a dead German's uniform. Bastard Private Yudovich flips through the ID papers till he gets to the page that contains the German soldier's name, statistics, and photo.
Siegfried Mueller.
They then removed their boots.
Close-up on German combat boots, laces untied, boots pulled off, socks removed, revealing dead bare feet. Bastards are tossing the boots off a hill.
Throwing them away from bodies.
Dead German scalps are removed from their heads with pink bare feet.
The bastards took their lives, their hair, their valuables, their identity, finally their dignity and death.
True that. The sight of the dead soldiers with bare feet does rob the tableau of a certain dignity that is normally felt in battlefield shots. Back to Hitler. The dogs! He fights his frustration, then continue. Back to the bastards. Aldo screams to the bastard who's guarding the two German prisoners.
Hey, Hirschberg, send that Kraut Sarge over here.
Bastard Private Hirschberg kicks Sergeant Rockman in the back.
You, go!
Sergeant Rockman is a little slow to respond, so Hirschberg grabs him by the hair, yanks him to his feet, and kicks him in the ass, sending him on his way. Most of the bastards sit in a circle, Indian style, with Aldo in the middle. As Sergeant Rockman walks towards this circle of bastards, an off-screen literary narrator, not Private Butts, speaks over the soundtrack in English. Sergeant Werner Rockman has seen many interrogations since Germany decided it should rule Europe, but this is the first time he's ever been on the wrong end of the exchange. It's always been his belief that only a weakling in mind, body, and spirit complies with the enemy under threat of consequence. As Werner watched men cry like women, pleadingly offer their knowledge in exchange for their worthless lives, he made a vow to himself. If his role is to die in this conflict, when they put him under the earth, his dignity would be buried with him. For in the other world, the gods only respect the ones they test first. Well, Sergeant, this is your test, and the gods are watching. The captured German sergeant enters the circle of bastards, stands straight before the sitting Southern lieutenant, and salutes his captor.
Sergeant Werner Rockman.
Aldo returns the salute, looking up at him.
Lieutenant Aldo Rain, pleased to meet you. You know what sit down means, Werner?
Yes.
Sit down.
The German sergeant does.
How's your English, Werner? If you need be, we got a couple of fellas can translate.
Aldo points at one of the bastards in the circle, Corporal Wilhelm Wicke.
Wiki there, an Austrian Jew, got the fuck out of Salzburg while the getting was good. Became American, got drafted, and came back to give y'all what for.
Then Aldo points to another bastard, a big, scary-looking bastard in a German sergeant's uniform named Sergeant Hugo Stiglitz.
And another one over there might be familiar with, Sergeant Hugo Stiglitz. Heard of him?
The two German sergeants look at each other.
Everybody in the German army's heard of Hugo Stiglitz.
The bastards laugh, and a couple pat Hugo on the back. Dan-dan! The narrator comes back on the soundtrack. The reason for Hugo Stiglitz's celebrity among German soldiers is simple. We see a photo of Hugo on the front page of the Nazi version of Stars and Stripes, the military newspaper. As a German enlisted man, he killed 13 Gestapo officers, mostly majors. We see the military photos of all 13 Gestapo officers. Instead of putting him up against a wall, the High Command decided to send him back to Berlin to be made an example of. Hugo is in chains, being put in a lone troop truck, part of a prison convoy, en route to Berlin. Needless to say, once the Bastards heard about him, he never got there. Exterior French countryside day. The Bastards ambush the prison convoy, killing everybody. They walk to the back of the troop truck. Inside, Hugo, in chains, stares back at them.
Sergeant Hugo Stiglitz.
Hugo nods.
I'm Lieutenant Aldo Rain, and these are the Bastards. Ever heard of us?
Hugo nods his head. Yes.
We just want to say we're a big fan of your work. When it comes to killing Nazis, I think you show great talent. And I pride myself on having an eye for that kind of talent. But your status as a Nazi killer is still amateur. We all came here to see if you want to go pro.
Back to the Bastard circle.
Now, Werner, I'm going to assume you know who we are.
Aldo's the Apache.
The circle of Bastards giggle.
I've heard, if you heard of us, you probably heard we ain't in the prisoner taking business. We in the killing Nazi business. And cousin, business is booming.
The Bastards laugh.
And that leaves us two ways we can play this out. Either kill you or let you go. Now, whether or not you're going to leave this circle alive depends entirely on you.
Aldo takes out a map of the area and lays it out in front of his prisoner.
Up the road a piece, there's an orchard. Besides you, we know there's another crap patrol freaking around here somewhere. Now, if that patrol were to have any crack shots, that orchard would be a goddamn sniper's delight. Now, if you ever want to eat a sauerkraut sandwich again, you got to show me on this map where they are. You got to tell me how many there are, and you got to tell me what kind of artillery they're carrying with them.
You can't expect me to divulge information that would put German lives in danger.
Well, Werner, that's where you're wrong. Because that's exactly what I expect. I need to know about Germans hiding in trees. And you need to tell me. And you need to tell me right now. Now take your finger and point out on this map where this party's being held. How many's coming and what they brought to play with.
Werner sits, head held high, back straight, chin up, every inch the German hero facing death.
I respectfully refuse, sir.
Aldo jerks his thumb behind him.
See that old batten? The old batten rocks?
We rack focus to one of the Bastards not in the circle. He's wearing a wife beater and power hitting stones with a baseball bat. Werner's eyes go to the ball player.
That's Sergeant Donnie Donowitz. But you might know him better by his nickname, the Bear Jew. Now, if you heard of Aldo the Apache, you gotta have heard about the Bear Jew.
I had.
What did you hear?
He beats German soldiers with a club.
He bashes their brains in with a baseball bat. That's what he does.
Sergeant Donowitz is back to us. We still haven't seen his face. He Babe Ruths a rock soaring into the atmosphere.
Now, Werner, I'm gonna ask you one last goddamn time, and if you still respectfully refuse, I'm calling the Bear Jew over here. He's gonna take that bat of his, and he's gonna beat your ass to death with it. Now take your wiener schnitzel licking finger and point out on this map what I want to know.
Fuck you and your Jew dogs.
Instead of getting mad, the Bastards burst out laughing. Aldo says to Werner with a giggle in his voice.
Actually, Werner, we're all tickled you said that. Frankly, watching Donnie beat Nazis to death is the closest we ever gonna get to the movies. Donnie!
Sergeant Donowitz, he turns to the camera and yells.
What?
Got a German here who wants to die for his country. Oblige him!
Sergeant Donnie Donowitz, with his bat over his shoulder, smiles. Cut to interior barbershop in Boston day. Donnie, cutting heads in his pop's barbershop, is in Boston.
You got the goddamn fucking Germans declare an open season on Jews in Europe, and I'm supposed to go to the fucking Philippines to fight a bunch of fucking Japanese? Not me, pal. If we get in against the Japanese here, the whole US of fucking A can take a run and leap at the moon.
You know, they got a word for what you're saying, Donnie. It's called treason.
Hey, stick your treason up your poop hole. If I'm going to kill my fellow man in the name of liberty, that man will be a German.
Interior sporting goods store day. Mr. Gorowitz's sporting goods shop in Donnie's Jewish Boston neighborhood. Donnie walks in.
Hello, Donnie. How you doing?
Just Danny, Mr. Gorowitz.
Your mother, your father, everything good there?
Yeah, they're just fine. I'm shipping off next week.
The store proprietor extends his hand to the young man.
Good for you, son. Kill one of those Nazi bastards for me, will ya?
Yeah, that's the idea, Mr. Gorowitz.
What can I do for you, Donnie?
I need a baseball bat.
The store owner leads him to a basket with 8 bats in it. Donnie starts going through them without saying anything. Mr. Gorowitz watches.
You getting your little brother a present before you ship out?
No.
Donnie, concentrating on the bats, says, not looking up.
No.
Donnie says no, which silences the Gabby Gorowitz. He seems to settle on one, feeling its weight in his hands.
Could I try this one for size outside?
Extending his arm,
Be my guests.
the phone rings.
I'll get that. You go right ahead.
Proprietor answers the phone and gets into a conversation with his off-screen mother. Donnie walks outside. We stay in the store, but can see him clearly through the store's big picture window. However, Mr. Gorowitz instinctively turns his back to Donnie to speak with his mother. Donnie starts swinging the bat. It's pretty obvious he's pantomiming beating somebody to death with it. Then he starts yelling.
Take that, you fucking Nazi bastard! You like fucking with the Jews? You want to fuck with the Jews? The American Jews are gonna fuck with you!
Mr. Gorowitz sees none of this as he speaks to his mother. He hangs up the phone just as Donnie walks back into the store. The store owner turns to the store customer.
Is this the heaviest you got?
Cut to interior hallway apartment building day. Donnie, dressed nice, in an apartment building in his Jewish Boston neighborhood. He knocks on a door. A very old Jewish woman opens the door, only a little, peering out at the young man.
Love the babushka.
Thank you. How can I help you?
Mrs. Himmelstein?
State your business, young man.
Mrs. Himmelstein, I'm Donnie Donowitz. My father, Cy Donowitz, he owns a barber shop on Greenie Ave. Cy's Barber Shop.
I've seen it. Do you live in the neighborhood?
All my life.
Again, state your business.
May I have a word with you?
What about?
Our people in Europe.
He thinks for a beat, then holds the door open for the young man.
Come in. Would you like some tea?
Interior Mrs. Himmelstein's apartment day. Donnie sits on an overstuffed sofa holding a teacup and saucer in his hand. Mrs. Himmelstein sits on an overstuffed chair holding her tea, looking across at her visitor.
Very good.
If you like tea.
Donnie chuckles at her little joke. The old woman remains stone-faced. She wasn't joking. He places his saucer on the coffee table and begins.
Mrs. Himmelstein, do you have any loved ones over in Europe who you're concerned for?
What compels you, young man, to ask a stranger such a
Because I'm going to Europe, and I'm going to make it right.
And just how do you intend to do that, Joshua?
He holds up his bat.
With this,
And what exactly do you intend to do with that toy?
I'm going to beat every fucking Nazi I find to death with it.
She takes another sip of tea.
I thought we were having tea together.
Donnie picks up his cup and takes a sip.
And in this pursuit, how is it that I can be of service?
Well, I'm going through the neighborhood, and if you have any loved ones in Europe whose safety you fear for, I'd like you to write their names on my bat.
Back to the Basterds. Donna takes a long walk to Donnie. Private Butts watches all of this. As we cut back and forth between Donnie walking and Werner waiting, we also cut back and forth between Donnie and Mrs. Himmelstein.
You must be a real bastard, Donnie.
You bet your sweet ass I am.
Hand me your sword, Gideon. I do believe I will join you on this journey.
She signs the bat, Madeline. Donnie steps up to the plate, looking down at the Nazi. He sees the iron cross hanging from the German sergeant's right pocket. The Jew taps the German's medal with the end of his bat.
You get that for killing Jews?
Bravery.
Donnie gives him a, oh yeah, we'll see about that look. The bear Jew raises the bat high up over his shoulder and brings it down hard against the side of Rockman's head. Donnie beats Werner to death with the bat to the cheers of the bastard. Private Butts watches. Hirschberg says to him,
Well, now I'd be shitting my pants if I was you.
Teddy fucking Williams knocks it out of the park. Fenway Park all on the FIFA Teddy. Fucking ball game. He went right to the yard on that one on the fucking lands down straight.
Aldo points a finger at Butts and crooks it toward him. A crying, visibly shaken Butts sits down in front of Aldo.
You want to live?
Yes, sir.
Point out on this map the German position.
His arm shoots out like a rocket and points out the positions.
This area here,
How many?
maybe 12.
What kind of artillery?
They have machine gun dug in there and pointing north.
Back to Hitler. How did you survive this ordeal? We see Private Butts in the Führer's room for the first time. He wears a Nazi cap, which is unusual in the presence of the Führer, but he seems okay with it.
They let me go.
From here on, we go back and forth between Aldo and Hitler.
Now, when you report what happened here, you can't tell them you told us what you told us. They'll shoot you. But they're going to want to know why you so special. Why we let you live. So tell them we let you live so you could spread the word through the ranks. What's going to happen to every Nazi we find.
Well, not to tell anybody anything. Not one word of detail. Your outfit was ambushed and you got away. Not one more word.
Yes, mein Führer.
Did they mark you like they did the other survivors?
Yes, mein Führer.
Remove your hat and show me.
Now say we let you go and say you survived the war. When you get back home, what you gonna do?
I will hug my mother like I've never hugged her before.
Well, ain't that a real nice boy? Are you gonna take off your uniform?
Not only shall I remove it, but I intend to burn it.
The young German is telling Aldo what he thinks Aldo wants to hear, but the last answer didn't go down as well as he thought it would, as is evident by the frown on Aldo's face.
Yeah, that's what we thought. We don't like that. You see, we like our Nazis in uniforms. That way you can spot them just like that. When you take off that uniform, ain't nobody gonna know you were a Nazi. And that don't sit well with us.
Aldo removes a large knife from a sheath on his belt.
Well, I'm gonna give you a little something you can't take off.
Back to Hitler. Private Butts removes his combat helmet. Hair hangs in his face. He moves it aside and we see a swastika has been hand-carved into his forehead. Back to the Basterds. From Butts' POV on the ground, looking up at them, Aldo has just carved the swastika and he's holding the bloody knife. All the Bastards crowd around to admire his handiwork.
You know something, Lieutenant? You're getting pretty good at that.
You know how you get to Carnegie Hall, don't you? Practice.
Fades to black. Over black, another chapter title appears. Chapter 3, German Night in Paris. Interior Cinema Auditorium Night. We're in the auditorium of a cinema in Paris. However, the camera is pointed in the direction of the audience, not the screen. We start close on the projector beam emanating from the little glass window in the back of the theater. The camera continues to dolly back, making the shot wider and wider, bringing in more and more the German-occupied citizens of Paris, who stare at the off-screen silver screen in the dark. We can hear the off-screen soundtrack of a Goebbels-produced German en papa musical movie being projected. The shot continues to pull farther and farther back, and the German dialogue continues to fill the auditorium until the dolly shot lands on a close-up of Shoshana watching the movie. A subtitle appears. Shoshana Dreyfus, 2 weeks after the massacre of Shoshana's family. We hear the sound of the German musical's climax. The lights go up in the auditorium. Shoshana, dressed in a nurse's uniform she swiped from somewhere, remains seated as the rest of the patrons gather their coats and file out. Exterior Little Cinema Paris night. Patrons exit under the cinema marquee as someone from inside shuts off the marquee's lights. The marquee reads in French, German night, Bridget von Hammersmark in Madcap in Mexico. Exterior projection booth, Little Cinema. A French black man, who we will learn later is named Marcel, is the cinema's projectionist. We see him for a moment taking the film reels off the projector and placing them on rewinds. Interior auditorium. Close up on Shoshana, still sitting in her seat. Except for her, the auditorium is empty. The owner of the cinema, an attractive-looking Frenchwoman, who we will later know as Madame Mimeux, appears in one of the cinema's opera box balconies. Looking down from her porch at the young girl sitting in the empty cinema, The dialogue will be spoken in French and subtitled in English.
So, young woman, since it's beyond obvious we're close to the evening, I must assume you want something. What can I do for you?
May I sleep here tonight?
So I gather you're not a nurse? But you're a bright little thing. That's a clever disguise. Where is your family?
Murdered.
So you're a war orphan.
We were from Nancy. The bushes found us.
Is this a sad story?
We
Sad stories bore me. These days everyone in Paris has one. I haven't bored you with mine. Don't bore me with yours.
can run the machines.
What machines?
Using her hands to pantomime the rotating film reels on a projector, she says,
The machines that show the film.
The projectors? Oui, I own a cinema. Of course I can operate them.
I know. I saw you.
Flash on a close-up of Shoshana, eyes creeping up the stairway in the projection booth, watching. Madame Mimieux expertly working the projectors. Back to Shoshana.
Teach me to run the machines that show the film. It's only you and him. I know you could use the help.
I know at least 6 people who've been put up against the wall against the machine, gunned for sheltering enemies of the states. I have no intention of being unlucky number 7. How long have you been in Paris?
A week and a few days.
How have you survived the curfew without capture?
On rooftops.
Again, I'm forced to admit, clever girl. How is it?
Cold.
I can imagine.
Respectfully, no, you can't.
Pause.
Fair enough.
He thinks.
So you can't operate a 35mm film projector. You want me to teach you in order to work here, in order to use my cinema as a hole to hide in. Is that correct?
Oui.
What is your name?
Shoshana.
I'm Madame Mimieux. You may call me Madame, as this is my cinema, not a home for wayward orphans. Having said that, what you say is true. If you were truly exceptional, I could find use for you. So, Shoshana, are you truly exceptional?
Oui, madame.
I will be the judge of that.
Dissolve to title card, which shows a lovely pencil sketch of the city of Paris, complete with Eiffel Tower. Above it reads 1944, Paris. And the camera pulls back, and we see we're not looking at a title card at all, but a calendar stuck on the wall of the little cinema's projection booth. Before we leave it, we see the month is June. The camera finds the 3 years older Shoshana working as the projectionist. It would appear that Shoshana passed Madame Mimieux's exceptional test. A lyrical Morricone-like tune plays in the soundtrack. This will be Shoshana's theme. A little bell begins ringing on one of the projectors, alerting Shoshana it's time for a reel change. Shoshana stands at the projector, watching the old German film she's projecting, waiting for the first reel change mark. Silver screen of the little cinema. On screen, Leni Riefenstahl lies horizontal as an icicle drips on her head in the old German film The White Hell of Pitzpaloo. The first reel change mark pops on in the upper right-hand corner of the frame that tells the projectionist to get ready. As the film reel on the first projector rolls out, Shoshana stands ready, waiting by the second projector. When on the silver screen, the second reel change mark pops on in the same place, that's the one. Shoshana throws the lever on the second projector, switching their film from projector 1 to projector 2, executing a perfect reel change. As Shoshana's theme plays in the soundtrack, we watch via montage her go through her daily chores, carry heavy film cans up the stairs, empty the rat traps, etc., etc. Exterior cinema night. The marquee reads in French, German night. Leni Riefenstahl in Pabst's White Hell of Pitzpaloo. Shoshana emerges from the cinema carrying 2 buckets of letters for the marquee and a tall ladder. Her chore here, obviously, is to change the show on the marquee. The literary narrator comes on the soundtrack in English. To operate a cinema in Paris during the occupation, one had 2 choices. Either you could show new German propaganda films, produced under the watchful eye of Joseph Goebbels, or you could have a German night in your weekly schedule and show allowed German classic films. Their German night was Thursday. Shoshana, by herself, perched up high on the ladder, is changing the letters on the marquee. A young German soldier, about the same age as Shoshana, walks out of the cinema. He sees the ladder with the young French girl on top and walks over. They speak French, subtitled in English.
We'll start tomorrow.
Shoshana looks down, seeing the young German soldier smiling up at her from below.
Max Linder Festival.
I always preferred Linda to Chaplin. Except Linda never made a film as good as The Kid. Chase climax of The Kid? Superb.
Shoshana continues working, not adding to the conversation.
I suppose you could use an M, an A, and an X?
No need. I can manage.
Don't be ridiculous. It's my pleasure.
He hands the French damsel the letter spelling Max.
I admire your cinema very much.
See?
She busies herself with the marquee letters.
Is it yours?
Do I own it?
Oui.
Oui.
How does such a young girl such as yourself own a cinema?
Due to his uniform and Shoshana's situation, his effort to trying to make small talk strike the young Jewess in hiding as a Gestapo interrogation.
My aunt left it to me.
Lucky girl.
Shoshana makes no reply back.
Merci for hosting German night.
I don't have a choice, but you're welcome.
Do you choose the German films yourself?
Oui.
Then my merci stands. I love the Reifenstahl mountain films, especially Pitzpaloo. It's nice to see a French girl who's an admirer of Reifenstahl.
Admire would not be the adjective I would use to describe my feelings toward Fraulein Reifenstahl.
But you do admire the director Pabst, don't you? That's why you included his name on the marquee.
She climbs down from the ladder and faces the German private.
I'm French. We respect directors in our country.
Apparently even Germans.
Even Germans. Merci for your assistance, Private. Adieu.
She turns to go back inside.
You're not finished?
I'll finish in the morning.
She opens the door to go inside.
May I ask your name?
You wish to see my papers?
She hands him her excellently forged papers. That's obviously not what he meant, but he takes them anyway to read her name.
Emmanuel Momo. It's a very pretty name.
See? Are you finished with my papers?
He hands them back.
Mademoiselle, my name is Frederick Zola.
She gives no response.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you, with a fellow cinema lover. Sweet dreams, mademoiselle.
He gives her a little salute and walks into the black of a curfew-imposed night. She looks after him. She didn't show it, but he kind of got to her. After all, for any true cinema lover, it's hard to hate anybody who cinema mon amour. Exterior rooftop cinema night. Shoshana stands on the roof of her cinema late at night, lighting up a cigarette. As she takes her first big drag, she remembers a voice. Flash on Madame Mimieux, the younger Shoshana, and the black projectionist Marcel in the projection booth. Shoshana lights up a cigarette, and Madame Mimieux slaps her face hard, knocking the cigarette out of her mouth. Marcel quickly stamps it out on the floor.
If I ever see you light up a cigarette in my cinema again, I'll turn you into the Nazis. Do you understand?
Shoshana is shocked by this statement.
Madame.
And for bringing an open flame into my cinema, you deserve less than the Nazi Jewish boxcar. With your sick head, what do you think the highest priority of a cinema manager is? Keeping this fucking place from burning down to the ground. That's what. In my collection, I have over 350 35mm nitrate film prints, which are not only immensely flammable, but highly unstable. And should they catch fire, they burn 3 times faster than paper. If that happens, poof! All gone. Cinema no more. Everybody burned alive. If I ever see you with an open flame in my cinema again, I won't turn you into the Nazis. I'll kill you myself. And the fucking Germans will give me a curfew pass. Do you understand me?
Oui, madame.
Do you believe me?
Oui, madame.
You damn well better.
Back to the roof. Shoshana exhales cigarette smoke. Marcel comes onto the roof. Marcel.
I'm sorry. What page are we on?
Bottom of
Bottom.
40. Even on the roof. I can't smoke a cigarette without hearing Madame's voice yelling at me. That's why I do it. hear Madame's voice again.
We both miss her.
I know. I'm fine, darling. I'll be to bed soon.
Marcel goes back inside. Shoshana smokes. Interior French bistro, afternoon. Shoshana sits in the back of a French bistro reading a book, Saint in New York, by Leslie Charteris, drinking wine, when the young German soldier from the other day, Frederick Zoller, walks in. He gets a beer, then notices the French girl sitting in the back. He smiles and heads over to her. Oh no, not this guy again, she thinks. Again, they speak in French, subtitled in English.
May I join you?
Look, Frederick.
You remember my name.
Yes. Look, you seem a pleasant enough fellow.
Merci.
You're welcome. Regardless, I want you to stop pestering me.
I apologize, mademoiselle. I wasn't trying to be a pest. I was simply trying to be friendly.
I don't wish to be your friend.
Why not?
Don't act like an infant, you know why.
I'm more than just a uniform.
Not to me. If you're so desperate for a French girlfriend, I suggest you try Vichy.
Just then, two other German soldiers come over, obviously very impressed with Frederick. They make a fuss over him in unsubtitled German, which neither Shoshana or the non-German speaking members of the movie's audience can understand. He signs autographs for them and shakes their hands, and they go on their way. Shoshana's eyes narrow.
Who are you?
I thought I was just a uniform.
You're not just a German soldier. Are you somebody's son?
Most German soldiers are somebody's son.
Yeah, but you're not just somebody. What are you, Hitler's nephew?
He leans in across the table. She leans in too, and he says,
Yes.
Really?
No, not really. I'm just teasing you.
She leans back, annoyed.
Then what is it? What are you, a German movie star?
Not exactly.
What does that mean, not exactly? I asked if you were a movie star. The answer to that question is yes or no.
Frederick laughs at that line.
When you said that just now, you reminded me of my sister.
This catches young Shoshana off guard.
I came from a home of 6 sisters. We run a family-operated cinema in Munich. Seeing you run around your cinema reminds me of them, especially my sister Helga. She raised me when our father wasn't up for the job. I admire her very much. You'd like her. She doesn't wear a German uniform.
You were raised by Helga?
All my sisters. I'm the baby, but Helga was the bossiest.
And your mother and father?
My mother died, and my father was a loser. My father's motto was, if at first you don't succeed, quit. The day he left, good riddance. My sisters were all I need. That's why I like your cinema. It makes me feel both close to them and a little homesick at the same time.
Your cinema still operating?
Oui.
What's it called?
The Keno house.
How was it done during the war?
Actually, in Germany, cinema attendance is up.
No doubt. You don't have to operate under a curfew.
How often do you fill your house?
Not since before the war.
So if you had one big engagement, that would help you out.
Of course, but that's not likely to happen.
Two more German soldiers and their two French dates approach the table. They ask for Frederick's autograph, and he signs it for them. One of the French girls says in French how exciting it is to meet a real-life German war hero. Shoshana hears it. They leave, so that's it, she thinks.
So you're a war hero? Why didn't you tell me?
Everyone knows that. I like that you didn't.
You do.
He takes a sip of beer.
I've shot the most enemy soldiers in World War II. So far.
You bet your sweet ass that got her attention.
Wow.
I was alone in a bell tower in the walled-off city in Russia. I was myself and 1,000 rounds of ammo in a bird's nest against 300 Soviet soldiers.
What's a bird's nest?
Bird's nest is what a sniper would call a bell tower. It's high structure offering a 360-degree view. Very advantageous for marksmen.
How many Russians did you kill?
68 the first day. 150 the second day. 32 the third day. On the fourth day, they exited the city. Naturally, my war story received a lot of attention in Germany. That's why they all recognize me. They call me the German Sergeant York.
Maybe they'll make a film about your exploits.
Well, that's just what Joseph Goebbels thought. So did he. So he did. It's called Nation's Pride. And guess what? They want me to play myself. So I did. They have posters for it, the kiosks all over Paris. That's another reason for the attention.
Nation's Pride is about you. Nation's Pride is starring you.
I know. Comical, huh?
Not so comical. So, what are you doing in Paris? Enjoying a rest?
Hardly. We're doing publicity, having my pictures taken with different German luminaries, visiting troops, that sort of thing. Goebbels wanted the film to premiere in Paris, but I've been helping them with the planning. Joseph is very keen on this film. He's been telling everybody who will listen that Nation's Pride is released. I'll be the German Van Johnson.
Shoshana isn't falling for the young German boy by any stretch. However, his exploits, as well as his charming manner, can't help but impress. But his referring to Goebbels as Joseph, like they're friends, is all she needs to get on the right side of things. This young man is trouble with a capital T, and she needs to stay far fucking away from him. She abruptly rises and says,
Well, good luck with your premiere, Private. I hope all goes well for Joseph and yourself. Au revoir.
and with that she disappears, leaving the perplexed private alone. Exterior Cinema Marquee, day. It's the next day. Shoshana and Marcel are changing the letters in the marquee. Marcel excuses himself to visit the toilet. Shoshana is alone outside the little cinema, perched up on her ladder, when a black Nazi sedan pulls up in front of the little cinema. A German major in a black Gestapo uniform steps out of the back of the sedan. The driver, a German private, steps out as well. Yelling to the young girl up high on the ladder, both German and French will be subtitled in English. Mademoiselle Mimieux,
Oui?
telling his driver in German to ask her in French. Ask her if this is her cinema. In French, the driver asks Shoshana.
Is this your cinema?
Oui.
Tell her to come down.
Come down, please.
She climbs down the ladder. The driver opens the back door of the sedan, indicating for her to get in.
Don't understand. What have I done?
She wants to know what she's done.
Who says she's done anything?
Who said you've done anything?
Then, in her best imitation of Mademoiselle Mimieux's arrogant manner,
Then I demand to know what this is all about, and where do you propose to take me?
the driver begins to translate when the Gestapo major holds up his hand, telling him not to bother. The major looks at the young French girl and tells her in German, Get your ass in the car. No translation necessary. She climbs into the back of the car, followed by the Germans. The sedan takes off. Interior sedan moving, day. The Nazi sedan drives through the early afternoon Paris streets. We hold on Shoshana in tight close-up. The whole ride, never showing her Nazi oppressor sitting beside her. We just hold on her face, trying not to reveal anything. The sedan stops. The car door opens and the driver offers Shoshana his hand. Exterior, interior Maxim's, the famous Paris cafe, day. She steps out of the car and is led into a Paris cafe by the Gestapo officer. It takes the young Jewess a moment or two before she realizes she's not being led to a Gestapo interrogation room, a railroad car, or a concentration camp, but to lunch. The best table at Maxim's. 3 people and 2 dogs sit at it. Germany's Minister of Propaganda and the number 2 man in Hitler's Third Reich, Joseph Goebbels, his female French translator and mistress, Francesca Mondino, and young Private Zoller. 2 black French poodles belonging to Mademoiselle Mondino sit together in another chair at the table. We join them in mid-conversation. They all speak German, subtitled in English. It's only the offspring of slaves that allows America to be competitive athletically. American Olympic gold can be measured in Negro sweat. Shoshana is led through the French eatery by the Gestapo major. Private Zoller sees her and stands up, excuses himself, and greets her before she reaches the table. Frederick says in French, subtitled in English,
Good you came. I wasn't sure whether you accept my invitation.
Patient?
Then Goebbels' voice says off-screen, That's the young lady in question, Frederick? Private Zoller turns in his direction, takes Shoshana by the arm, and leads her to him.
Yes, it is Herr Goebbels, Emmanuel. Somebody I would like you to meet.
Joseph Goebbels, remaining seated, looks up at the young French girl, scrutinizing her as he spoons creme brulee into his mouth. The excited Frederick introduces Shoshana to the propaganda minister formally.
Emmanuel Mimo, I'd like to introduce you to the Minister of Propaganda, the leader of the entire German film industry, and, now that I'm an actor, my boss, Joseph Goebbels.
Goebbels offers up his long, spider-like fingers for Shoshana to shake. She does. Your reputation precedes you, Fraulein Mimieux. He looks to Francesca to translate, but she's just taking a big bite of tiramisu. They all laugh. Frederick jumps in.
And naturally, this is Herr Goebbels' French interpreter, Mademoiselle Francesca Mondino.
Francesca looks up at Shoshana. The narrator's voice comes in the soundtrack. Francesca Mondino is much more than Goebbels' French interpreter. He's also Goebbels' favorite French actors to appear in his films. Flash on a French clip from one of Francesca's black and white Goebbels-produced productions. Francesca dressed as a French peasant girl with a young German movie soldier. She speaks in French, subtitled in English.
I love you. I can't help it. My country or my heart, which do I betray?
A subtitle appears below naming the film's title, Sentimental Combat, 1943. Flash on Francesca and Goebbels having sex in her boudoir on her red velvet bed. And Goebbels' favorite French mistress to act in his bed. We see just a super quick shot of Goebbels fucking Francesca doggy style.
Sorry. Do it. Fuck me, film me.
Back to Francesca looking at Shoshana.
Sure.
Bonjour.
And you've met the Major.
The Gestapo officer steps up and says to Frederick in German, "Actually, I didn't introduce myself. Major Dieter Hellstrom of the Gestapo at your service, mademoiselle. Please allow me. Have a seat." The Gestapo officer pulls out a chair for the young lady to sit down. Shoshana takes the hot seat. Seated to her right is Private Zoller. To her left are the two curly, pampered poodles. Major Hellstrom pours Shoshana a glass of red wine from a small carafe on the table. "Try the wine, mademoiselle. It's quite good." Goebbels looks around the table at her. "Well, I must say you've made quite an impression on our boy." Francesca interrupts Goebbels' German for Shoshana. "I must say, Fraulein, I should be rather annoyed with you." Francesca interprets. "I arrive in France and I wish to have lunch with my star." Francesca interprets. "Little do I know he's become the toast of Paris and now he must find time for me." Francesca interprets. "People wait in line hours, days to see me. For the Fuhrer and Private Zoller, I wait." Francesca interprets. "So finally I'm granted an audience with the young private, and he spends the entire lunch speaking of you and your cinema." Francesca interprets. "So, Fraulein Mimule, let's get down to business." Private Zoller interrupts.
I haven't informed her yet.
"Unless the girl is a simpleton, I'm sure she's figured it out by now. After all, she does operate the cinema. Francesca, tell her." Francesca tells Shoshana in French.
What they're trying to tell you, Emmanuel, is that Private Zoller has spent the last hour at lunch trying to convince Monsieur Goebbels to abandon previous plans for Private Zoller's film premiere and change the venue to your cinema.
Zoller reacts.
What?
I wanted to inform her.
Shit. I apologize, Private. Of course you did.
What's the issue?
The young soldier wanted to inform the mademoiselle herself.
Nonsense. Until I ask a few questions, he has nothing to inform. Let the record state I have not agreed to a venue change. Duly noted. Goebbels speaks German to Shoshana. "You have opera boxes."
Oui.
"How many?"
3.
"More would be better. How many seats in your auditorium?"
150.
"That's almost 400 less than the Ritz." Frederick jumps in.
But Herr Goebbels, there's not such a terrible thing. You said yourself you wouldn't want to indulge every two-faced French bourgeoisie taking up space to curry favor. But let's see if it makes the event more exclusive. We're not trying to fill the house. They're fighting for seats. Besides, to hell with the French. It's a German night. A German event, a German celebration. This night is for you, me, the German military, the high command, their family, and friends. The only people who should be allowed in the room are the people who will be moved by the exploit on screen.
Goebbels listens silently. Then after a bit of a pause, "I see your public speaking has improved. It appears I've created a monster. A strangely persuasive monster. When the war's over, politics awaits." The table chuckles. "Well, Private, though it is true I'm inclined to indulge you anything, I must watch a film in this young lady's cinema before I can say yes or no. So, young lady, you are to close your cinema tonight and have a private screening for me." Francesca interprets. "What German films do you have?" Francesca asks.
My cinema on German night tends to show older German classics.
Francesca interprets. "Why not my films?" Francesca asks.
I draw an older German audience in my cinema that appreciates the nostalgia of an earlier time.
Francesca interprets. "That's nonsense, Fraulein. We Germans are looking forward, not backward. That era of German cinema is dead. The German cinema I create will not only be the cinema of Europe, but the world's only alternative to the degenerate Jewish influence of Hollywood. Frederick jumps in.
Along with being a cinema lover, Emmanuel is quite a formidable film critic.
He chuckles, but alone. So it would appear. Unfortunately for the Fraulein, I've outlawed film criticism. Zoller thinks fast and says,
Then why don't you screen Lucky Kids? I'm sure Emmanuel hasn't seen it. It's very funny. I've been moaning to recommend it to her, but for her German night. It's a great idea. Let's watch Funny Kids tonight.
Ah, Lucky Kids, Lucky Kids, Lucky Kids. When all is said and done, my most purely enjoyable production. Not only that, I wouldn't be surprised if 60 years from now, it's Lucky Kids that I'm the most remembered for. I know it doesn't seem like it now, but mark my words. Very well. I'll have a print sent over to the Fraulein Cinema. We'll screen Lucky Kids tonight. As Francesca interprets this for Shoshana, the empty chair next to the young Jewish girl is suddenly filled with the bottom half of a gray SS officer uniform. Ah, Landa, you're here. This is the young lady in question. The SS officer sits down, and it's our old friend from the first scene, Colonel Hans Landa.
Emmanuel, this is Colonel Hans Landa of the SS. He'll be wanting security for the premiere.
Close up on Shoshana, a bomb is dropped and detonated behind her eyes. But if she gives any indication of this, her war story ends here. The SS officer who murdered her family takes her hand and kisses it, saying in perfect French,
Chère mademoiselle.
better known as the Jew Hunter. The table laughs. Oh, Francesca, what was that funny thing the Fuhrer said about Hans?
What thing?
You know, you were there. It was a funny thing the Fuhrer said about Hans. Something about a pig? Francesca's memory is jogged.
Oh, yes, of course.
He repeats it by whispering it in Goebbels' ear. Ah, yes, of course, that's it. So the Fuhrer said he wouldn't be surprised if Hans went rooting out Jews like a truffle pig from the playpen.
That's what we need, pigs that can root out Jews.
Who needs pigs when you have me?
A big, hearty laugh around the table. Do you have an engagement tonight?
Well, as a matter of fact, I do.
Break it. We're all going to the Fraulein Cinema tonight to view Lucky Kids.
Splendid.
Then the Reich Minister's companion, Mademoiselle Mondino, interrupts.
And now I must get Reich Minister Goebbels back to his next appointment.
Slave driver! French slave driver! They all chuckle. Everybody begins to stand up from the table. Francesca gathers the stupid dogs. As Colonel Landa stands, he says,
Actually, in my role as the security chief of this joyous German occasion, I'm afraid I must have a word with Mademoiselle Memieux.
Mademoiselle Mimieux's eyes go to Private Zoller, who responds.
What sort of discussion?
That sounded suspiciously like a soldier questioning the order of a colonel. Or am I just being sensitive?
Nothing could be further from the truth, Colonel. Your authority is beyond question, but your reputation precedes you. Should Mademoiselle Mimieux or myself be concerned?
Hans, the boy means no harm. He's simply smitten. And he's correct. Your reputation does precede you. Laughter all around. The Reich Minister and his Axis entourage make their way to the front of the cafe with the two dumb dogs on a leash leading the way.
No need for concern, you two. There's security chief. I simply need to have a chat with the possible new venue's property owner.
I was just hoping to escort Madame Maman back to her cinema.
Nonsense. You can eat ice cream and walk along this Seine another time. Right now, allow Colonel Landa to do his job. Everybody says their farewells. Colonel Landa offers the young Jew in hiding a seat at a small table in the outside patio area of Maxim's. The fluency and poetic proficiency of the SS Jew hunter's French reveals to the audience that his feigning clumsiness at French with Monsieur Le Petit in the film's first scene was simply an interrogation technique. They speak French subtitled in English.
Have you tried the Choudel here?
No.
It's also terrible. So how is it the young private and yourself came to be acquainted?
She's about to answer when a waiter approaches.
Yes. 2 strudels, one for myself and one for the mademoiselle. A cup of espresso with a container of steamed milk on the side. For the mademoiselle, a glass of milk.
Considering that Shoshana grew up on a dairy farm, and the last time she was on a dairy farm, her strudel companion murdered her entire family, his ordering her milk is, to say the least, disconcerting. The key to Colonel Landa's power and or charm, depending on the side one's on, lies in his ability to convince you he's privy to your secrets. The waiter exits.
So, mademoiselle, you were beginning to explain?
Until a couple of days ago, I had no knowledge of Private Zola or his exploits. To me, the private was simply a patron of my cinema. We spoke a few times, but...
Well, mademoiselle, let me interrupt you. This is a simple formality. There's no reason to feel anxious.
The strudel arrives. The colonel takes one look at it and says to the waiter,
Oh, I apologize. I forgot to order the cream farcie.
Un moment.
one. He exits.
Wait for the cream. So, Emmanuel, may I call you Emmanuel? So, Emmanuel, explain to me, how does it happen that a young lady such as yourself comes to own a cinema?
The waiter returns, applying creme fraiche to the two strudels. The SS colonel looks across the table at his companion. Picking up his fork, he says,
After you?
Shoshana takes a whipped creamy bite of strudel. Londa follows her lead.
Success?
Shoshana, with a mouthful of strudel, indicates she approves.
Like I said, not so terrible. And you would explain the origin of your cinema ownership.
The cinema originally belonged to my aunt and uncle.
Colonel Londa removes a little black book from his pocket.
What are their names?
Jean-Pierre and Adamamu.
He records the names in his little book.
And where are they now?
My uncle was killed during the Blitzkrieg.
Ah, pity. Continue.
Aunt Ada passed away from fever last spring.
Regrettable. It's come to my attention that you have a black man in your employ. Is that true?
Yes, he is a Frenchman. His name is Marcel. He worked with my aunt and uncle since they opened the cinema. He's the only other one who works with me.
Doing what?
Projectionist.
Is he any good?
He's the best.
Actually, one could see where that might be a good trade for them. Can you operate the projectors?
Of course I can.
Knowing the Reich Minister as I do, I'm quite positive he wouldn't want the success of a failure in his illustrious evening dependent on the prowess of a black man. So if it comes to pass that we hold this event at your venue, Talented, no doubt, as you will be able to operate the projectors. Is that acceptable?
As if she has any say. Colonel Londa takes another bite of strudel, and Shoshana follows suit.
So it appears our young hero is quite smitten of you.
Private Zola's feelings for me aren't of a romantic nature.
Mademoiselle?
Colonel, his feelings are not romantic. I remind him of his sister.
That doesn't mean his feelings are romantic.
I remind him of his sister who raised him.
Sounding more and more romantic by the minute.
Londa takes out a handsome-looking cigarette case with an SS logo on it. Removing one of the cigarettes, he lights it up with a fancy SS gold lighter. He offers one to Shoshana.
Cigarette?
No, thank you.
Do you smoke?
Yes.
Then I insist. You must have one. They're not French, they're German. I hope you're not nationalist about your tobacco. To me, French cigarettes are a sin against nicotine.
She takes one, but makes no move to light it. He inhales deeply and says,
I did have something else I wanted to ask you. But right now, for the life of me, I can't remember what it is, so, well, must not have been important.
Colonel Londa stands up, throws some French francs on the table, puts on his gray SS cap, touches his finger to his visor, saluting Shoshana, and says,
Till tonight.
And with that, he's gone. Shoshana breathes a sigh of relief. The camera begins to slowly lower from a medium close-up to her feet and ankles on the floor. We see her shoes are in a puddle of urine. During her conversation and strudel with the man who exterminated her entire family, Shoshana pissed herself. He drops the German cigarette onto the piss puddle by her feet. Interior cinema auditorium, night. The silver screen on-screen is the German screwball comedy Lucky Kids. We hear off-screen laughter at the on-screen Aryan antics. Close-up on Goebbels watching the screen, basking in his own toxic genius. Close-up Francesca laughing at comedy, hand covering her mouth. Close-up on the two black poodles, pantingly watching the screen. Close-up on Major Hellstrom, smiling, smoking a German cigarette. Close-up on Colonel Landa, smoking a German cigarette, amused. Close-up on Frederick Zoller, truly enjoying himself. Close-up on Shoshana watching the screen. The literary narrator comes on the soundtrack. While Shoshana sits there pretending to be amused by the alien antics of Goebbels' Frank Capra copy Lucky Kids, a thought suddenly comes to her. We see her face get slightly distracted behind the eyes. What if tonight, accidentally, the cinema burned down? The Third Reich would lose its minister of propaganda, its national hero, and its top Jew hunter, all in one fell swoop. She chuckles at that thought, though it looks like she's chuckling at the German comedy. But then that thought led Shoshana to a crazy idea. The idea flashes on her face. Then Shoshana bursts out laughing. Zola looks over at her, happy. She's enjoying the movie. On the silver screen, the end card for Lucky Kids is projected. The Nazi Rogues Gallery and Shoshana applaud the film. The lights go up. Goebbels accepts congratulations as they stand and begin to file out into the lobby. The screening of Lucky Kids was a complete success, and Goebbels conceded to have the venue changed to Shoshana Cinema. Not only that, in a moment of inspiration, Goebbels had an idea. Goebbels speaks German and Francesca translates. I must say I appreciate the modesty of this auditorium. Your cinema has real respect, almost church-like. Not to say we couldn't spruce the place up a bit. In Versailles, there's a crystal chandelier hanging in the banquet hall that is extraordinary. We're going to get it and hang it from the very middle of the auditorium roof. Also, I want to go to the Louvre, pick up a few Greek nudes, and just scatter them about the lobby. Montage, we see a quick series of shots that show all of that happening. The chandelier being removed from the ceiling of Versailles, Greek nude statues being hand-trucked out of the Louvre, a truck driving through the French countryside with the enormous crystal chandelier in the back, the lobby of Shoshana's cinema, pimped out in Nazi iconography, workers buzz around decorating, the Greek statues are moved into place. You see workers trying with incredible difficulty to hoist the huge, heavy, and twinklingly fragile chandelier in Shoshana's auditorium, which now resembles something out of one of Tinto Brass's Italian B-movie ripoffs of Visconti's The Damned. Shoshana watches all of this from an opera box. She shakes her head in disbelief. Back to Shoshana and the Nazis, in the lobby, post-screening of Lucky Kids. She's soundlessly escorting them to the door as they make their goodbyes. As they left the little French cinema that night, all the Germans were very happy. We see Private Zoller hanging back so he can say goodbye. None more so than Frederick Zoller. He closes the door on him, watching the Nazis walk into Paris night. Their shadows for a moment on the wall look like grotesque Nazi caricatures. The Nazis are gone. Marcel sits at the top of the staircase of the lobby, looking down at Shoshana. They speak in French, subtitled in English.
What the fuck are we supposed to do?
Looks like we're supposed to have a Nazi premiere.
Like I said, what the fuck are we supposed to do?
Well, I need to speak with you about that.
About what?
About these Hun swine commandeering our cinema.
What about it?
She slowly walks up the stairs to Marcel. She makes him part his legs and sits on the lower step, between his legs, her back up against his chest, his arms around her shoulders. Shoshana has only known this type of intimacy with Marcel.
Well, when I was watching that Bochi Capricorn abomination, I got an idea.
I'm confused. What are we talking about?
Filling the cinema with Nazis and their whores and burning it to the ground.
I'm not talking about that. You're talking about that.
No, we're talking about that right now. If we can keep this place from burning down by ourselves, we can burn it down ourselves.
Shoshana.
No, Marcel, just for the sake of arguments, if we want to burn down the cinema for any number of reasons, you and I could physically accomplish that, no?
Shoshana, we could do that.
And with Madame Amue's 350 nitrate film print collection, we wouldn't even need explosives, would we?
You mean we wouldn't need any more explosives?
That's exactly what I mean.
Begins kissing his hands.
I am going to burn down the cinema on Nazi night.
One of his fingers probes her mouth.
If I'm going to burn down the cinema, which I am, we both know you're not going to let me do it by myself.
The back of her head presses up hard against him as his hand both caresses and grips her lovely neck.
Because you love me, and I love you. You're the only person on this earth I can trust.
She then twists around so she's straddling him. They're now face to face.
That's not all we're going to do. There's the filmmaking equipment and theatrics to work. I know the film camera does. How about the sound recorder?
Quite well, actually. I recorded a new guitarist I met in a cafe last week. It works superb. Why do we need filmmaking equipment?
Because, Marcel, my sweet, we are going to make a film just for the Nazis.
Gives him a deep French kiss. Fade to black. Black frame. All right. Chapter 4. Operation Keno. Interior English Country Estate Day. A young military attaché opens the sliding double doors that serve as an entrance to the room.
Right this way, Lieutenant.
A sappy, handsome British lieutenant in dress brown steps inside the room. This officer, who has been mixing it up with the Jerrys since the late 30s, is Lieutenant Archie Hickox, a young George Sanders type, i.e. of the Saint and Private Affairs of Bellamy years, of course. Upon entering the room, Lieutenant Hickox is gobsmacked. Standing before him is legendary military mastermind General Ed Fennick, an older George Sanders type, i.e. Village of the Damned. But in the back of the room, sitting behind a piano, smoking his ever-present cigar, is the unmistakable bulk of Winston Churchill. The lieutenant was not expecting him. Hickox salutes the general.
Lieutenant Hickox reporting, sir.
General Ed Finesse, at ease, Hickox. Drink.
Hickox's eyes go to the formidable bulldog behind the piano, who's scrutinizing him behind his cigar. However, the man behind the cigar makes no gesture, and the general makes no acknowledgement of the 300-pound gorilla in the room, which Lieutenant Hickox knows enough to mean if Churchill isn't introduced, he ain't there.
If you offered me a Scotch and plain water, I would drink a Scotch and plain water.
That's a boy, Lieutenant. Make it yourself like a good chap, will you? Balls in the globe.
Hickox heads over to the bar globe.
Something for yourself, sir?
Whiskey. Straight. No junk in it.
The lieutenant moves over to the Columbus-style globe bar and busies himself mixing spirits, playing bartender Chappie. Fennick is eyeing the lieutenant's file.
It says here you've run 3 undercover commando operations in Germany and Germany-occupied territories. Frankfurt, Holland, and Norway, to be exact.
Back to them mixing drinks, Hickox says,
Extraordinary people, the Norwegians.
It says here you speak German fluently.
Like a Klatzendammer kid.
And your occupation before the war?
his back still to us as he bartends.
I'm a film critic.
List your accomplishments.
Well, so such as they are, I write reviews and articles for publication called Films and Filmmakers, as well as our sister publications.
What's that called?
Flicker's bi-monthly. I've had 2 books published.
Impressive. Don't be modest, Lieutenant. What are their titles?
First book is called The Art of the Eyes, the Heart, and the Mind, study of German cinema in the 20s. The second one is called...
He turns around with his whiskey and plain water, and the general's whiskey, no junk. He finishes what he was saying as he walks towards the general, handing him his drink.
24 Frame Da Vinci. It's a subsexual film criticism on the study of work of a German director, G.W. Past.
He hands the general his whiskey.
What should we drink to, sir?
Down with Hitler.
All the way down, sir.
Clink.
Are you familiar with the German cinema under the Third Reich?
Yes. Obviously, I haven't seen any of the films made in the last 3 years, but I'm familiar with it.
Explain it to me.
Pardon, sir?
This little escapade of ours requires a knowledge of the German film industry under the Third Reich. Explain me UFA under Goebbels.
Goebbels considered the films he makes to be the beginning of a new era of German cinema. Alternative to what he considers the Jewish German intellectual cinema of the 20s and the Jewish-controlled dogma of Hollywood.
Suddenly, bellowing from the back of the room, "How's he doing?"
Frightfully sorry, sir. Once again?
You say he wants to take on the Jews at their own game, compared to, say, Louis B. Mayer. How's he doing?
Quite well, actually. Since Goebbels has taken over, film attendance has steadily risen in Germany over the last 8 years. But Louis B. Mayer wouldn't be Goebbels' proper opposite number. I believe Goebbels himself sees himself to be a David O. Selznick.
General Fennick looks to the Prime Minister. With a puff of cigar smoke, Churchill says, "Brief him."
Hickox, at this point in time, I'd like to brief you on Operation Keno. 3 days from now, Joseph Goebbels is throwing a gala premiere of one of his new movies in Paris.
What film, sir?
The general has to resort to peeking at his file.
The motion picture's called Nation's Pride.
Are you in the film about Private Zola?
We don't have any intelligence on exactly what the film that night will be about.
But it's called Nation's Pride.
Yes.
I can tell you what it's about. It's about Private Frederick Zola. He's a German Sergeant York.
Fennec can't help but suppress a smile. They have the right man.
In attendance at this joyous Germanic occasion will be Goebbels, Goering, Bormann, and most of the German High Command, including all of the high-ranking officers of both the SS and the Gestapo, as well as luminaries of the Nazi propaganda film industry.
Master race at play, eh?
Basically, we have all our rotten eggs in one basket. The objection of Operation Keno: blow up the basket.
And like the snows of yesteryear gone from this earth. Jolly good, sir.
An American Secret Service outfit that lives deep behind enemy lines will be your assist. The Germans call them the Bastards.
Bastards. Never heard of them.
Whole point of the Secret Service, old boy. You not hearing of them. But the Jerrys have heard of them, because these Yanks have been them the devil. Their leader is a chap named Lieutenant Aldo Rain. The Germans call him Aldo the Apache.
Why do they call him that?
Best guess is because he removes the scalps of the Nazi head. Dead.
Scalps, sir.
The hair.
He runs his finger along his hairline.
Like a red engine.
Rather gruesome sounding little dicky bird, isn't he?
No doubt the whole lot a bunch of nutters. But you've heard the expression, it takes a thief.
Indeed.
General Fennec continues on with his exposition, moving over to a military map.
You'll be dropped in France about 24 kilometers outside of Paris. The Bastards will be waiting for you. First thing you go to a little village called Nadine. Apparently the Jerrys never go there. In Nadine, there's a tavern called Le Lucin. You'll rendezvous with our double agent. She'll take it from there. She's the one who's going to get you into the premiere. It will be you, her, and 2 German-born members of the Bastards. She's also made all of the arrangements you're going to need.
How would I know her?
I suspect that won't be too much trouble for you. Your contract is Bridget von Hammersmark.
Bridget von Hammersmark. The German movie star is working for England.
For the last 2 years now. One could even say Operation Keno is her brainchild.
In the back of the room, the bulldog barks. Extraordinary woman.
Quite.
You'll go to the premiere as her guest, lucky devil. She'll also have the premiere tickets for the other 2. Got the gist?
I think so, sir. Paris when it sizzles.
The 3 British bulldogs laugh. Exterior cinema rooftop day. Shoshana and Marcel are on the rooftop of their cinema, literally making a movie. Marcel is behind an old, even then, Bolex 35mm movie camera, positioned low, looking up. Shoshana, the camera subject, stands on boxes looking down into it. An old-timey microphone is positioned out of frame. As they always do and always will, they speak French, subtitled into you-know-what.
We need a sync mark,
Is a sync mark.
an action and noise put together so we can sync up the picture and sound.
How do we do that?
Clap your hands.
She does.
In frame, imbecile.
She claps her hands in front of her face.
Ready?
Shoshana takes a deep breath, then
Ready.
Action.
we cut, before she speaks, to the scene earlier between Marcel and Shoshana in the lobby, on the stairs, talking about burning down the cinema. Big difference. This time it's in color.
But how do we get it developed? Only a suicidal idiot like us would develop that footage. How do we get a 35mm print with a soundtrack?
You know one person who can do both things?
Of course, Gasper, very nice man, took care of all the experimental filmmakers, but nobody in their right mind would strike a print of what you're talking about. If the Nazis found out, their life wouldn't be worth this.
Snaps his fingers.
In a wolf fight, you either eat the wolf or the wolf eats you. If we're going to obliterate the Nazis, we have to use their tactics.
What does that mean?
We find somebody who can develop and process a 35mm print, and we make them do it, or we kill them. Once we tell them what we want to do, if they refuse, we have to kill them anyway, or they'll turn us in.
Would you do that?
Like that.
Snaps her fingers. Interior small film processing lab, late night. An old mom-and-pop film processing lab circa the 30s, late at night. Gasper, the fatherly figure of all the experimental French filmmakers in the decade before German rule, takes a savage beating at the hands of his friend Marcel. Shoshana watches pitiless.
Bring that fucker over here. Put his head down on the table.
Marcel holds Gasper's arm behind him as he forces his head flat against the tabletop. Shoshana brings the hatchet down deep into the table, just by his face.
Either do what the fuck we tell you to, or I'll bury this axe in your collaborating skull.
I'm not a collaborator!
Then prove it! Or does your manhood go no deeper than standing to peace? Marcel, do his wife and children know you?
We.
Then after we killed this dog for Germans, we'll go and silence them.
She lifts up the hatchet, raises it high.
Prepare to die, collaborator fucker!
Cut to, Gasper hands the couple a small silver can of 35mm film. Outside the shop window, it's morning. Interior projection room. We see the 5 heavy silver film cans of Frederick Zoller's life story, Nation's Pride, clearly marked on the floor of the projection booth. The can for Reel 4 is open and empty. Shoshana's at the editing bench. Reel 4 is up on the rewinds. Shoshana splices her and Marcel's footage into Reel 4 of Frederick's film, rewinds it, puts it back in the can, and puts a piece of red tape on the Reel 4 can. She walks out of the booth, turning off the lights behind her, plunging the screen into darkness. Black frame. From black dissolved to exterior, La Louisiane Tavern, night. We see a small basement tavern with an old rustic sign out front that reads, La Louisiane. A subtitle appears, The Village of Nadine, France. A two-shot of Lieutenant Hickox and Lieutenant Aldo Rain. Aldo is dressed like a French civilian. Hickox is dressed in a German gray SS captain's uniform. They look out of a window in an apartment in the village of Nadine overlooking the tavern.
You didn't say the goddamn rendezvous was in a freaking basement.
I didn't know.
You said it was in a tavern.
It is a tavern.
Yeah, in a basement. You know, fighting in a basement offers a lot of difficulties. Number one being, you're fighting in a basement.
Wilhelm Wicke joins the shot, dressed in a German SS lieutenant's uniform.
What if we go in and she's not even there?
We wait.
Wait.
All right.
Don't worry. She's a British spy. She might have rendezvous.
We see that the other bastards, dressed in French civilian clothes, are in the room as well. They are Donowitz, Hirschberg, and Udovich. And in the back of the room, dressed in the gray uniform of an SS lieutenant, Hugo Stiglitz sits off by himself, sharpening his SS dagger on his leather belt, looped around his boot. Anybody not in the scene from the Basterds opening chapter is dead. Lieutenant Hickox watches Stiglitz off by himself on the other side of the room, sharpening his dagger menacingly. Stiglitz is fucking weird. Lieutenant Hickox approaches Stiglitz.
Stiglitz, right?
That's right, sir.
He continues bringing the blade's edge up and down on the leather strap,
I hear you're pretty good with that.
meaning the blade. Stiglitz doesn't answer.
You know, we're not looking for trouble right now. We're simply making contact with our agent. Should be uneventful. However, on the off chance I'm wrong and things become eventful, I need to know we can all remain calm.
The renegade Jerry Sargent stops his blade's progress and looks up at the limey lieutenant.
I don't look calm to you.
Well, now you put it like that, I guess you do.
He turns his attention back to his blade. Hickox moves over to Aldo and asks him privately.
This Jerry of yours, Stiglitz. Not exactly the loquacious type, is he?
Aldo just looks at him.
Is that the kind of man you need? The loquacious type?
Fair point, Lieutenant.
So y'all get in trouble in there? What are we supposed to do? Take bets on who's gonna come out?
We get into trouble, we can handle it. If trouble does happen, we need to make damn sure no Germans, or French for that matter, escape from that basement. If Fräulein von Hammersmark's cover is compromised, the mission is kaput.
Donnie chimes in.
Speaking of Fräulein von Hammersmark, whose idea was it to have the death trap rendezvous? She chose the spot. Well, isn't that just dandy? Look, she's not a military strategist. She's just an actress.
You don't get to Stonewall Jackson. You don't got to be Stonewall Jackson to know you don't want to fight in the basement.
She wasn't picking a place to fight. She was picking a place isolated and without Germans.
Lieutenant, I hate to be contrary, but I got me a Nazi pissing on Louisiana 2 o'clock.
Move to the window window, and sure enough, one lone Nazi private relieves himself against the sidewall. Lieutenant Hickox, this was definitely not the plan.
Shit.
Sergeant Donowitz chides him.
So what do you think, your Fräulein Van Hammer? Obviously, I don't know, Sergeant.
The British officer watches the German soldier, who's not supposed to be there. When Hugo Stiglitz joins him at the window, Stiglitz looks down at the urinating Nazi, SS dagger in hand.
If we're going, let's go.
He sheathes the dagger. Exterior La Louisiane basement tavern night. The German pissing private sloppily finishes his task. Cramming his noodle back in his pants, he descends the stairs that lead him back into the basement tavern. We follow him. Interior LA Louisiane basement tavern night. Inside the basement tavern, it has a very low-hanging basement ceiling, an old-looking wood bar off to the right, and the only other space in the little tavern is taken up by two large, at least in here, tables, which take up both halves of the room. And despite rumors to the contrary, one of the two tables is completely filled with drunken, celebrating Nazi enlisted men, of which our urinating friend is one of 5. 5 Nazis, 1 German master sergeant, 1 female German sergeant, a powerfully built stocky type, and 3 male German soldiers. The 5 Nazis are sitting around the table, drinking, and playing a very fun game with none other than the Fraulein of the hour, UFA diva Bridget von Hammersmark, dressed to the nines in a chic 40s-style woman's suit, complete with fedora. The game they're playing consists of each player having a card with the name of a famous person, real or imaginary, stuck to their forehead. The player doesn't know what name is on their forehead, so they ask the others questions to figure out who they are. The 5 Germans' 5 cards read: Master Sergeant number 1, Pola Negri; Female Sergeant number 2, Beethoven; German Private number 3, Matahari; German Private number 4, Edgar Wallace; German Private number 5, Winnetow; and Bridget von Hammersmark, who wears her card in the brim of her fedora, has Genghis Khan. It's German number 5's Winnetow turn to ask questions. The dialogue will be in German and subtitled in English.
Okay, I am not German. Am I American?
The whole table bursts out laughing.
Yes, you are.
Well, not really.
You mean not really? Of course he is.
Well, if he's so American, how come he's never been translated into English? He's not American. He's supposed to be American, but he's not an American creation. In fact, he's something very different.
I am a fictional literary character from the past. I'm American, and that's controversial.
No, it's not controversial. The nationality of the author has nothing to do with the nationality of the character. The character, Hamlet's not British, he's Danish, so yes, his character was born in America.
Well, I'm glad that's settled. If I had a wife, would she be called a squaw?
He's got it. The table laughs.
Yes!
Yeah.
Is my blood brother old Shatterhand?
Yeah.
Yes!
Did Karl May write me?
Yeah.
Yes!
Yes.
In the background, we see our 3 counterfeit German officers, Hickox, Wiki, and Stiglitz, enter the basement tavern. They obviously see the 5 German soldiers, but they're too far away for us, the audience, to read their faces. No doubt they're less than happy. Fraulein von Hammersmark sees them as well. Without getting up, she waves to them.
Hello, my lovelies. I will join you in a moment. I'm finishing up a game with my 5 new friends here.
No hurry, Fräulein von Hammersmark. Take your time. Enjoy yourself.
So, who are you?
I am Winnetou, chief of the Apaches.
The table cheers and applauds the Apache chief as he takes the card off his forehead. The other 4 German soldiers drink down their beer, which is part of the game. Bridget von Hammersmark knocks back her champagne.
Fräulein von Hammersmark, when your friends came in, did you realize you did a double take like in the movies?
Really? No, I wasn't aware of it at all.
It must be second nature to you now. Did they teach you how to do a double take in the movies?
Well, yes, they did, but it's not really that difficult.
Do one for us.
The table heartily agrees. Bridget looks directly at the master sergeant and does a perfect and perfectly funny double take. The table loves it.
My turn, I want to try.
Matahari looks directly at Beethoven and does a double take.
I want to try.
He does. Soon the whole table is doing dueling double takes. Hickox, Wiki, and Stiglitz watch the table do dueling double takes. Obviously, they don't understand. Then, Bridget von Hammersmark rises and excuses herself from the table. She removes the card stuck in her fedora, looking at the name for the first time, Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan! I never would have gotten that.
She walks over and joins the masquerading Germans' table. The gentlemen rise. She greets each warmly with a French cheek kiss as if she knows them well. They all take a seat. The two Bastards and one Brit drink whiskey. The tavern's proprietor, an older, big-bellied Frenchman named Earl, comes over to the table and pours more champagne into Bridget's champagne glass. He leaves, returning back behind the bar with the young French barmaid, the only other person in the establishment. Obviously, they speak German, subtitled in English.
I was supposed to have more French than Germans.
Normally that's true. The sergeant over there, his wife just had a baby. His commanding officer gave him and his mates the night out to celebrate.
We should leave.
No, we should stay for one drink at least. I've been waiting for you in the bar. It would look strange if we left before we had a drink.
She's right. Just be calm and enjoy your booze.
Back to the German table. The French barmaid has taken Bridget's place in the rousing, rowdy game. She tells them her person must be French or she won't know them. Winnetou thinks for a moment, then writes a name on a card. The barmaid puts it on her forehead. It says, Napoleon. The Germans all laugh. Back to the Bastards table.
There's been some new developments. The cinema venue has changed.
Why?
No one knows, but that in itself shouldn't be a problem. The cinema, it's been changed to is considerably smaller than the Leeds. So whatever materials you brought for the Ritz could be doubly effective here. Now, this next piece of information is closer to overreact. The fair will be attending tomorrow.
Hugo Stiglitz does a spit take. Bridget's eyes bore holes in him. Back to the real Germans. They see Hugo do the spit take and burst out laughing. Keeping it up, they begin to do dueling spit takes, like they did dueling double takes earlier. Needless to say, they all get wet. Back to the Bastards.
Jesus. Sorry, I just got headbutted. You'll be going as Ernst Schuler. You'll say you're an associate producer of Rheinfinstals in Tiefland. It's the one German production not under Goebbels' control, and Linny would be courted at Goebbels' Film Affair.
Back to the real German table. Master Sergeant Polinegri drinks his beer as he looks over dreamily at Bridget von Hammersmark at the other table. Back to the Bastards. Bridget continues to brief Hickox on his identity. We see in the background the German Master Sergeant stand up from his table and head towards Fraulein von Hammersmark.
The film's gone through many delays. Lenny's health is deteriorating, so if you have to speak.
Hickox, seeing the German Master Sergeant approach, signals for her to cool it.
Fraulein von Hammersmark, I was just thinking, could you sign an autograph to my son on his birthday?
I'd love to, Wilhelm. This handsome, happy sergeant must become a father today.
The pretend officers offer congratulations to the sergeant. The German Master Sergeant clicks his heels and bows before his superior officers.
Thank you. Heil Hitler.
He raises his hand, as do the seated phony officers. Heil Hitler. As she takes a rather fancy fountain pen from her clutch.
So, Wilhelm, do you know the name of this progeny yet?
Du Fräulein. His name is Maximilian.
Even the slightly psychotic Stiglitz likes this German sergeant.
Wonderful name, Sergeant.
You, Lieutenant. When he's old enough to ride a bicycle, I will buy him a blue one, and I will paint on it the side, the blue Max.
Thrust out his beer stein for the officers to cheer. They do. Bridget finishes signing her autograph with a big flourish.
There you go. But wait, I'm not finished yet.
She reaches into her clutch and pulls out some lipstick, applies some ruby red color to her lips, and then kisses the napkin, leaving a big red lip print. Then she hands the treasured item to the young officer.
Nothing but is best for little Maximilian.
Thank you, Fräulein. Thank you. Max may not know who you are now, but he will. I will show him all of your films. He will grow up with your films and this napkin on his wall.
Then to the whole tavern.
I propose a toast to the greatest actress in Germany. There is no Dietrich, there is no Reifenstahl, only von Hammersmark.
The whole room toasts. This would be a good time for the German sergeant to go back to his table and his men, and he almost does. But since he's drunk and starstruck, he outwears his welcome.
So, Fräulein von Hammersmark, What brings you to France?
Feeling any good Nazi officer's patience would have been exhausted long ago, Lieutenant Hickox butts in.
None of your business, Sergeant. You might not have won your welcome out with the Fräulein with your drunken, boorish behavior, but you have won out your welcome with me.
The table of game-playing soldiers hears this and gets quiet.
Might I remind you, Sergeant, you are an enlisted man. This is an officer's table. I suggest you stop pestering the Fräulein and rejoin your table.
The German master sergeant looks quizzically at the officer.
Excuse me, Captain, but your accent is very unusual.
The whole room pauses for different reasons.
Where are you from?
A silent moment passes between the two tables, then the two German-born imposters spring into action.
Sergeant, you must either be drunk or mad to speak to a superior officer with such impertinence.
Diglett stands and yells to the other table.
I'm making you and you responsible for him. And I suggest you take a hold of your friend or he'll spend Max's first birthday in jail for public drunkenness.
The Germans spring up and take hold of Sergeant Pola, when a German voice rings out. Then might I, an unknown German in the room, unseen till now, our old friend from before, Major Dieter Hellstrom of the Gestapo. The major stands from the little table he was sitting at. Like the young newly Christian father, I too have an acute ear for accents, and like him, I too find yours odd. From where do you hail, Captain? Wiki jumps in.
Major, this is highly inappropriate.
I wasn't speaking to you, Lieutenant Salzburg, or you either, Lieutenant Berlin. I was speaking to Captain I don't know what. The Gestapo major is now standing beside Sergeant Pola before the imposter's table. Lieutenant Hickox calmly explains his origin.
I was born in the village that rests in the shadow of Fitzpalu.
The mountain?
Yes. In that village, we all speak like this. Have you seen the Reifenstahl film?
Yes.
Then you saw me. You remember the skiing torch scene?
Yes, I do.
In that scene were myself, my father, my sister, and my two brothers. My brother was so handsome, the director Pabst gave him a close-up.
As Bridget von Hammersmark places a cigarette in an ivory cigarette holder, which Hickox, as if on cue, lights for her, she says,
Major, if my word means anything, I can vouch for everything the young captain has just said. He does not hail from the bottom of Fitzpalu. He was in the film, and his brother is far more handsome than he is.
The imposters laugh. And so does the Gestapo major. He turns to the sergeant. You should rejoin your friends. Which the young sergeant is more than happy to do. That table begins playing their game again. Major Hellstrom, the highest-ranking officer in the room, bows graciously to the female German celebrity. May I join you?
By all means, Major.
Gestapo major sits at the table opposite Lieutenant Hickox and Wiki. The French barmaid brings over the major's beer stein. So that's the source of your bizarre accent. Extraordinary. So what are you doing here, Captain?
Aside from having a drink with the lovely Fräulein?
Well, that pleasure requires no explanation. Chuckle, chuckle. I mean, in country. You're obviously not stationed in France, or I'd know who you are.
You know every German in France?
Worth knowing.
Well, therein lies the problem. We never claim to be worth knowing.
All levity aside, what are you doing in France?
Attending Goebbels' film premiere as the Fräulein's escort.
You're the Fräulein's escort.
Somebody has to carry the lighter.
The captain is my date, but all three are my guests. We're old friends, Major, who go back a long time, longer than an actress should care to admit.
Well, in that case, let me raise a glass to the three luckiest men in the room.
I'll drink to that.
They cheers. Back to the real Germans' table. They continue to have a lot of fun playing their game. Back to the officers' table. I must say that game they're playing looks like a good bit of fun. I didn't join them because you're quite right, Captain. Officers and enlisted men shouldn't fraternize. But seeing as we're all officers here, and sophisticated lady friends of officers, what say we play the game? Lieutenant Hickox begins to refuse when Bridget, feeling she knows better, interrupts him.
Okay, one game.
Wunderbar. The major borrows 5 cards from the other table and lays them out in front of Bridget and the officers. So, the object of the game is to write the name of a famous person on your card. Real or fictitious doesn't matter. For instance, you could write Confucius or Fu Manchu. Quick, more pens. And they must be famous. No Aunt Inga's. When you finish writing, put the card face down on the table and move it to the person to your left. The person to your right will move their card in front of you. You pick up the card without looking at it, lick the back, and stick it on your forehead, like so. And in 10 yes or no questions, you must guess who you are. As Major Hellstrom finishes explaining the finer points of the game, a camera pans off him and begins slowly zooming into Stiglitz. The Major's dialogue begins to fade away, until we're in a spaghetti western flashback, which is red-filtered footage of Hugo being savagely whipped by somebody wearing a Gestapo uniform, superimposed over his close-up. The flashback disappears. It's driving Stiglitz crazy, being this close to a Gestapo uniform and not plunging a knife into it. The Major's voice comes back on the soundtrack. So let's give it a try, shall we? Everybody write your names. The 5 players write their names, then move their cards to the left. Everybody sticks their cards on their forehead. Major Hellstrom is King Kong. Bridget von Hammerschmark is G.W. Pabst. Wilhelm Wicke is Bulldog Drummond. Archie Hickox is Bridget Helm. Hugo Stiglitz is Marco Polo. I'll start. Give you the idea. Am I German? They laugh.
No.
Am I an American? They laugh, but then Wiki says,
Wait a minute. He goes to.
Don't be ridiculous. Obviously, he wasn't born in America.
So I visited America, eh? Table says yes.
Yes.
Was this visit fortuitous?
Not for you.
My native land, is it what one would call exotic? The table confers and decides, yes, it is exotic. That could be either a reference to the jungle or the Orient. I'm going to let my first instinct take over and ask, am I from the jungle? The table says, yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Now, gentlemen, around this time you could ask whether you're real or fictitious. I, however, think that's too easy, so I won't ask that yet. Okay, my native land is the jungle. I visited America, but my visit was not fortuitous to me. But the implication is that it was to somebody else. When I went from the jungle to America, did I go by boat?
Yes.
Yes. Did I go against my will?
Yes.
Yeah.
On this boat ride, was I in chains?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I arrived in America, was I displayed in chains?
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I the story of the Negro in America?
No.
No.
Nine.
But I must be King Kong. He throws the card on the table. They applaud him. Now, since I answered correctly, you all need to finish your drinks. The 3 counterfeit Nazis knock back their whiskeys. Now, who's next?
Major, I don't mean to sound rude, but the 4 of us are very good friends, and the 4 of us haven't seen each other in quite a while. So, Major, I'm afraid you are intruding.
I beg to differ, Captain. It's only if the Fraulein considers my presence an intrusion that I become an intruder. How about it, Fraulein? Am I intruding?
Of course not, Major.
I didn't think so. It's simply the young captain is immune to my charms. Table's not sure what to do. Is this a confrontation? Then the Major laughs. I'm just joking. Of course I'm intruding. Allow me to refill your glasses, gentlemen, and I will bid you and the Fraulein adieu. Eric has a bottle of 33-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey from the Scottish Highlands. What do you say, gentlemen?
You're most gracious, sir.
Eric, the 33 and new glasses. You don't want to contaminate the 33 with the swill you were drinking. How many glasses?
How many glasses?
5 glasses.
Not me. I like Scotch. Scotch doesn't like me.
Nor I. I'll stay with the bubbly.
Lieutenant Hickox holds up 3 fingers, pinky to middle finger, to Eric, the owner.
3 glasses.
Eric brings the 3 glasses and the old bottle, pouring for the 3 soldiers. Major Hellstrom lifts up his Bierstein and toasts. To 1,000-year Reich! They all mutter 1,000-year Reich and clink glasses.
Yep.
The Gestapo major puts down his Bierstein, and then we hear a click under the table. Did you hear that? That's the sound of my Walter pointed right at your testicles.
Why do you have a Luger pointed at my testicles?
Because you've just given yourself away, Captain. You're no more German than the Scotch.
Well, Major,
Major.
Shut up, slut. You were saying?
I was saying that makes two of us. I've had a gun pointed at your balls since you sat down.
That makes 3 of us.
Under the table, we see all 3 guns pointed at the appropriate crotches, as well as Bridget's legs, right beside the Nazi major's. Her pretty gams are sure to be chewed up in the possible crossfire.
And at this range, I'm a real Frederick Zoller.
Looks like we have a bit of a sticky situation here.
What's going to happen, Major, is you're going to stand up and walk out that door with us.
No, I don't think so. I'm afraid you and I both know, no matter what happens to anybody else in this room, the 2 of us aren't going anywhere. Too bad about Sergeant Wilhelm and his friends. If any of you expect to live, you'll have to shoot them too. Looks like little Max is going to grow up an orphan. How sad.
So, Major, I implore you, for the sake of those German troops, will you please leave with us?
Oh, Bridget, your concern for German troops gets me right here. You mean for the sake of your whore legs, don't you? You can't afford to get any bullet holes in them. You'll not finish spreading them for all the Hollywood Jews. Lieutenant Hickox picks up his 33-year-old single malt scotch and says,
Well, if this is it, old boy, I hope you don't mind if I go out speaking to kings.
By all means, Captain. The English film critic Commando picks up the 33 the Nazi major bought him and says,
There's a special rung of hell reserved for people who waste good scotch. Seeing as I might be rapping on the door momentarily.
He downs the stuff.
Say, damn good stuff, sir.
He puts the glass down.
Now, about this pickle we find ourselves in. It appears there's only one thing left for you to do.
And what would that be?
Stiglitz?
Say auf Wiedersehen to your balls.
Stiglitz fires into Hellstrom's balls, as does Hickox, hitting not only Hellstrom but Bridget as well. Hellstrom fires into Hickox's balls and kneecaps. Stiglitz then jumps over the table and begins stabbing Hellstrom with the dagger. Hickox falls to the floor, dead. Bridget falls to the floor, shot. Wiki brings his weapon out from underneath the table and begins firing across at the Germans at the table, who, unaware, were still playing the game. Winnetow is shot in the back before he even knows what's happening. Edgar Wallace is shot by Wiki. Sergeant Polinegri falls to the floor in the confusion. Female Sergeant Beethoven and Stiglitz bring their guns toward each other and fire. They both take and give each other so many bullets, it's almost romantic when they collapse dead on the floor. Wiki and Matahari both on their feet, firing wildly at each other. Matahari is hit 3 times. Wiki is hit once. Sergeant Polinegri comes off the floor with a submachine gun and sprays the whole other side of the room, wiping out Wiki, Eric, Matahari, and the barmaid. The shooting stops. The smoke caused by the gunfire starts to dissipate. The only one in the room left alive is the young German sergeant with the machine gun. We hear the feet of the soldiers outside reach the basement entrance. The door opens. The German sergeant sends 50 bullets in the door's direction. No one goes through it. What we have here is a rabbit hole-like situation. No one inside is getting out. No one outside is getting in. The young German sergeant yells in English to the outside.
You, outside! Who are you? British? American? What?
Aldo's voice yells down the hall.
We're Americans. What are you?
German, you idiot!
Speak English pretty good for a German.
I agree. So let's talk.
Okay. Talk.
I'm a father. My baby was born today in Frankfurt, 5 hours ago. His name is Max. We were in here drinking and celebrating. They're the ones that came in shooting and killing. It's not my fault.
Okay. It wasn't your fault. What's your name, soldier?
Wilhelm.
That's the same name as one of the guys you just killed.
They attacked us.
Okay, Wilhelm. Is anybody alive on our side?
No.
We hear a voice off screen yell out,
I'm alive!
Wilhelm spins in the direction of the voice. On the floor, with a bullet in her bloody leg, lies the still alive Bridget von Hammersmark. The German sergeant points the muzzle of the machine gun at the German celebrity with hate in his eyes.
Who's that?
Take a sound whore and I spit.
Meaning the muzzle.
Wilhelm, who is that?
Is the girl on your side?
Pause.
Which girl?
Who do you think? Von Hammersmark?
Yeah, she's ours.
I thought so. So you run with the Americans now, huh? Now times are bad?
She okay?
You despicable traitor. She's been shot, but she's alive. For now.
We hear the bastards curse their luck off screen.
Okay, Wilhelm, what do you say we make a deal?
What's your name?
Aldo. Wilhelm, can I call you Willie?
Yeah.
So, Willie, you know, we could lob 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 grenades down there and your little war story ends here. Good for you, bad for her. You die, she dies. Say what we say, make a swap. So what do you say we make a swap?
Keep talking.
Okay, Willie, here's my deal. You let me and one of my men come down and take the girl away. And we take the girl and leave. That's simple, Willie. You go your way, we go ours. And little Max gets to grow up playing catch with his daddy. So what do you say, Willie? We got a deal?
Willie thinks. Bridget watches Willie think.
Aldo,
I'm here, Willie.
I want to trust you. But how can I?
What choice you got?
I could kill the girl.
Well, now, Willie, that's true enough. But something you need to know, so you don't get the wrong idea. Ain't none of us give a fuck about that girl. But immediately, if you kill her, fuck up our plans. You'll be dead by then anyway, so what do you care? And let's not forget that little Captain Jammer Max growing up without a pop. So in the spirit of getting you home to him, we got a deal, Willie. Do we got a deal, Willie?
Okay, Aldo. I'm going to trust you. Come down. No guns.
Aldo and Hirschberg come down the stairs showing open hands. Willie keeps his machine gun trained on them. Aldo, with his hands up, says,
Hey, Willie. What's with the machine gun? I thought we had a deal.
We do have a deal. Now get the girl and go.
Not so fast, Willie. We only have a deal. We trust each other. A Mexican standoff ain't a trust, and it's also just a standoff.
You need guns on me for it to be a standoff.
You got guns on us, you decide to shoot, we're dead. Up top, they got grenades, they drop them down here, you're dead. That's a standoff, and that wasn't the deal.
Just take the fucking traitor and go. See? Now you're down here. Now you get tricky.
No tricks. Ain't nobody getting tricky, Willie. I swear to God, I'm too damn dumb to get tricky. But him, and I lived up the deal. We came down without guns. Now it's your turn. No trust, no deal.
Willie is pointing the gun at them, thinking.
I know you're scared. I'm scared. He's scared. We're all scared. So what's it gonna be, Willie? Either we got a deal, you might as well just shoot us now.
Willie decides. He puts the machine gun down on the bar.
Fine. Take that fucking traitor and get her out of my sight.
Danka, Willie. Danka. Okay, Hirschberg, you grab her shoulder.
When from behind Aldo and Hirschberg, Bridget lifts up Major Hellstrom's Walter and empties the remaining bullets into Sergeant Willie, who falls to the floor dead.
Bro.
Aldo and Hirschberg spin around shocked. From the floor, the bloody, sweaty, and in excruciating pain, she's probably going to lose that leg, German movie star says to the 2 American soldiers she's just meeting for the first time,
He was an enemy soldier who knew who I was. He couldn't live.
Interior, French house in the country, bedroom, night. An old man lies asleep under the covers of his blankets, in his bed, in his bedroom. When off screen, the sound of a door being kicked open, the sound of what sounds like 8 dogs barking, and the sound of feet running toward us. His bedroom door is thrown open, and Sergeant Donowitz rushes in, grabbing the old man in his bed and putting a .45 automatic to his head.
Doctor! Doctor!
What? What's happening?
Somebody
Go
else.
ahead.
Sorry. Go.
Donnie slams the .45 hard against the old man's head, shocking, scaring, and bringing the old gent to attention.
Doctor, are you a fucking doctor?
He nods his head, yes. Donnie yanks/drags the old man out of bed in his almost comical nightshirt, which makes him cuter, thus the brutality against him hurts more, toward the door. Interior doctor's examining room, night. Into a doctor's examining room built into a French country house with an examining table and medical instruments. However, it's obviously the medical examining room of a veterinarian. Along the walls are different cages with 8 barking dogs in them. The soldiers are putting the shot in the leg, bleeding, and excruciating pain Bridget on the examining table. Donnie, still holding on to the old man, points in the girl's direction.
She's been shot. Bang, bang, in the leg, understand?
No, I don't speak English.
Donnie jams the barrel of his .45 into the thigh of the old man.
Bang, bang. The leg.
The old man nods his head, yes.
I'm a veterinarian. Animals. I take care of animals.
Bridget screams from the table.
He's a fucking veterinarian, you imbecile!
Doctor, if we can get a bullet out of a cow, we can get a bullet out of you.
Right now, we just need morphine.
Donnie yells at the old man.
Morphine. We need morphine.
The old man tries to explain in French that he's not a human doctor. Donnie takes the .45 and shoots one of the dogs in the cages. Everybody jumps. Donnie screams at the old man.
Morphine.
Bang, he shoots another dog.
Morphine.
The old man begs him to stop and goes to get the morphine. Cut to the body of Gestapo Major Dieter Hellstrom dead on the floor. Interior La Louisiane, night. We're back in the basement tavern. Colonel Hans Landa stands over the corpse. He moves over to the next corpse, and a smile breaks out in his face. He says in German, subtitled in English,
Ah, Hugo, you've moved up in the world. I see. Lieutenant, with your record in insubordination, truly remarkable.
a Nazi soldier named Hermann joins the SS officer.
And that one's name is Wilhelm Wilke. He's an Austrian-born Jew, emigrated to the United States. Then things began turning sour for the Israelis. They are the two German-born members of the Basterds. They've been known to don German uniforms to ambush squads.
Flash on 3 Nazi soldiers walking toward a company of other German soldiers. The 3 soldiers' backs are to us. Dried, bloody bullet holes cover the backs of the 3 uniforms. The sergeant of the German company yells to the trio.
What brings you all the way out here?
The trio now down the German company with their machine guns. Back to Landa.
That doesn't look like this. This is odd.
Looking down, he sees something. Bending down, he examines Fraulein von Hammerschmark's 2 pretty dress shoes lying on the floor. One shoe is covered in blood. The other, while blood-speckled, is fairly clean. Picking up the clean shoe and holding it in his hand.
It would appear somebody's missing. Somebody fashionable.
An off-screen soldier's voice cries out.
Keno, this one's still alive.
We follow Hans to the spot on the floor where Sergeant Willie lies. He's shot in the chest, but it looks like Max's daddy is still alive. Interior examining room, night. Bridget is on the examining table, post-morphine shot. The other bastards in the room watch Aldo interrogate the German.
Now, before we yank that slug at you, you need to answer a few questions.
A few questions about what?
About I got 3 men dead back there, and why you don't try telling us what the fuck happened.
The British officer blew his German act, and a Gestapo major saw it.
Before we get into who shot John, why did you invite my men to a rendezvous in a basement with a bunch of Nazis?
I can see since you didn't see what happened inside, the Nazis being there must look odd.
Yeah, we got a word for that kind of odd in English. It's called suspicious.
Don't let your imagination get the better of you, Lieutenant. You met the Sergeant Willie? He had a baby tonight. His commanding officer gave him time off for him and his friends to celebrate. The Germans there was just a tragic coincidence.
Aldo thinks for a moment.
Okay, I'll buy that. He was either there with his men waiting for us, or he was there celebrating his son's birthday. He wasn't doing both. How did the shooting start?
The Englishman gave himself away.
How did he do that?
He ordered 3 glasses.
She holds up 3 fingers, middle to pinky.
This is the German tree. The other is Germans would and did notice.
Okay, let's pretend there were no Germans, and everything went exactly the way it was supposed to. What would have been the next step?
Tuxedos to get them into the premier wearing military uniforms. Without the military there, it would have been suicide, but going as members of the German film industry, they wear tuxedos and blend in with everybody else. I arranged a tailor to fit the 3 tuxedos tonight.
How did you intend to get them into that premiere?
Hand me my purse.
They do. And she opens it and takes out 3 tickets to the film premiere.
Lieutenant Cox was going as my escort. The other two were going as German camelman and his assistant.
Can you still get us into that premiere?
Can you speak German better than your friends? No. Have I been shot? Yes. I don't see me tripping in the light fantastic up to the red carpet anytime soon, at least so by tomorrow night. However, there is something you don't know. There's been 2 recent developments regarding Operation Keno. One, the venue has been changed from the Ritz to a much smaller venue.
Enormous changes at the last minute? That's not very Germanic. Why the hell is Goebbels doing stuff so damn peculiar?
It probably has something to do with the second development.
Which is?
Flash on in a private dining room in Germany, the Fuhrer, aka Adolf Hitler, aka Adolf Schicklgruber, aka the Bohemian Corporal, having dinner with Goebbels only a few short days ago. I've been rethinking my position in regards to a Paris premiere of Nation's Pride. As the weeks have gone on and the Americans are on the beach, I do find myself thinking more and more about this Private Zoller. This boy has done something tremendous for us, and I'm beginning to think my participation in this event could be meaningful. Back to Bridget.
The Fuhrer's attending the premiere.
Donnie breaks the team to silence.
What?
When the hell did this happen?
The venue changed 2 weeks ago. The Fuhrer's attendance 4 days ago.
How come London don't know nothing about that?
We need to get something straight, once and for all. Everything London knows, it learned it from me. If I don't know, London doesn't know. So now, this is me informing you. Hitler's coming to Paris.
Fuck a duck!
Aldo stands up from the chair, pacing as he takes in this new information.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking getting a whack at planning old Uncle Adolf makes this a horse of a different color.
What's that supposed to mean?
Means you're getting us into that premiere.
I'm going to probably end up losing this leg. Bye-bye. Acting clear fun while it lasted. How do you expect me to walk up the red carpet?
The doggy dog's gonna dig that slug out your gam. Then he's gonna wrap it up in a cast, and you got a good how I broke my leg mountain climbing story. That's German, ain't it? Y'all like climbing mountains, don't you?
I don't. I like smoking, drinking, and ordering in restaurants, but I see your point.
Fill you up with morphine till it's come out your ears. Then just limp your little ass up that road carpet.
Splendid. When the Nazis put me up against a wall, it won't hurt so much. I know this is a silly question before I ask it, but can you Americans speak any other language other than English?
Other than Yiddish?
Preferably.
Donnie, referring to Aldo and himself.
We both speak a little Italian.
Better than atrocious accent, no doubt. But that doesn't exactly kill us in the crib. Germans don't have a good ear for Italian, so you mumble Italian and blaze into it, and it is a plan.
That's about it.
That sounds good.
Sounds like shit. What else are we gonna do? Go home?
No, it's good. If you don't blow it with that, I can get you in the building. So, who does what?
Well, I speak the most Italian, so I'll be your escort. Donovan speaks the second most, so he'll be your Italian cameraman. And Hirschberg third most, so he'll be Donnie's assistant.
I don't speak Italian.
Like I said, third best. Just keep your fucking mouth shut. In fact, why don't you start practicing right now?
What about the little one?
You mean me?
I didn't mean any offense.
I'm taking a German cunt.
Unovich is the chauffeur.
I can't drive.
Bridget screams in frustration.
You Americans are fucking useless!
Give me a break. I'm from Manhattan.
No worries, son. We got over 14 hours before the movie tomorrow. More than enough time for you to learn to drive.
No, Lieutenant. It's not.
Oh, yes, Private, it is. And yes, you will. Look, Unovich, you and I both know if we went to grade school together, you damn sure ain't copping off my test. Well, I learned to drive in 4 hours on a Tennessee mountain road, and I'm a shit-for-brains coal miner bootlegger. Hirschberg, you know how to drive, right? You
Yes.
know. Jason.
But there is a problem. I'm a movie star. This is a movie premiere. I can't just show up looking like I was just in a Nazi gunfight. Now, I have a dress for the premiere at my hotel, but sometime tomorrow I have to get my hair done.
All the bastards, except Johnny, burst out laughing.
Sister, you must got wonder bar luck. Guess who went to beauty school?
The camera whip pans to Sergeant Donowitz. Bridget rolls her eyes. Black frame. Chapter title appears. Chapter 5. Revenge of the Giant Face. Fade off. Interior, Shoshana and Marcel's living quarters. Night. We're in Shoshana and Marcel's living quarters above the cinema. We've never been in here before. A subtitle appears on screen. Night of Nation's Pride premiere. Shoshana is standing before a full-length mirror in a real attractive 40s-style dress for the premiere. She's stunning. This is the first time in her life she's had the opportunity or the occasion to wear something like this. Since she knows this is the last night of her life, a time like the present, sounds of the hubbub of the premiere, not to mention the German brass band that's blaring Third Reich marches, can be heard coming from below. Shoshana walks to her apartment window and looks down at the Germanic miasma below. Shoshana's POV. We see all the pageantry below. Tons of spectators, tons of guests dressed in Nazi uniforms, tuxedos, and female finery walking up the long red carpet, with a big swastika in the middle, naturally, leading into Shoshana's cinema. The German brass band oompa flying away. German radio and film crews covering the event for the fatherland back home. And of course, many German soldiers providing security for this joyous Germanic occasion. Shoshana coughs up a loogie and hawks it. A German SS general being interviewed by a radio commentator. The loogie hits him right on his bald head. Shoshana goes back to the full-length mirror, places a very fashionable 40s-style hat in her head, then lowers the period-style black fishnet veil over her face. She takes out a small gun and puts it in the pocket of her dress, and it's on. She exits the apartment door to join the premiere. From this point on, there's no turning back. It's all the way, baby, all the fucking way. Interior cinema stairwell night. The stairwell in the building that connects the living quarters with the cinema. Shoshana walks down the stairs and goes through a door that puts her next to the projection booth door. She takes out a key and opens it. Interior projection booth night. Marcel's prepping the film reels for tonight. The 5 silver metal film cans that carry one 35mm reel of film each are laid out. The cans for reels 1 and 2 are empty. Cans for reel 3 are a specially marked can for reel 4, and the can for reel 5, which should never see the light of a projector, lie in wait. Shoshana, looking like a 40s movie star, enters the projection booth. The scene is in French, subtitled in English.
Ooh la la, Danielle Derriot, this is so exciting. Pleased to meet you.
Shut up, fool.
Marcel lifts up the veil, covering her face, and their lips meet.
Cheeky bugger. I have to go down and socialize with these Hun pigs. Let's go over it again.
Reel 1 is on the first projector, reel 2 is on the second, 3 and 4 are ready to go.
Big snapper battle in the film begins around the middle of the third reel. Our film comes up on the fourth reel, so somewhere towards the end of the third reel, go down and lock the doors of the auditorium. Then take your place behind the curtain and wait for my cue. When I give it to you, burn it down.
Interior, cinema lobby, night. The pageantry of the evening is in full swing as all the German beautiful people enter the cinema. They mingle in the swastika-covered, Greek nude statue-peppered lobby. Nazi military commanders, high-ranking party officials, and German celebrities, including Emil Jannings and Veit Harlan, hobnob and drink champagne from passing waiters who carry glasses on silver trays. We see Shoshana enter from the area at the top of the big staircase in the lobby that overlooks the lobby parlor entrance. She descends the staircase and busies herself with theater stuff. At the top of the staircase, looking down at the master race in all their finery, is Colonel Hans Landa, dressed in his finest SS dress uniform. The camera frames directly behind him. On the right side, we see the figure of Colonel Landa, from behind watching the guests entering the cinema. On the left side of the frame is the cinema entrance, from a looking down perspective of the guests entering the building. Then, a think bubble, like in a comic book, appears on the left side of the frame, obscuring the cinema entrance. Inside Landa's think bubble, a little scene plays out. In the think bubble is a hospital room filled with doctors, nurses, and a patient in a hospital bed. Then Colonel Landa enters the room and screams at everybody.
I want everybody out of this room!
They start to leave.
Now, goddammit!
They rush out. He walks over to the patient in the hospital bed. It's none other than Sergeant Willie, and yes, he's still alive. Londa pulls up a chair next to the bed and sits down.
Can you speak, Sergeant?
Yeah, Colonel.
Tell me everything that happened there.
The think bubble dissolves away, revealing the entrance again, and as if on perfect cue, in walks Bridget von Hammersmark, dressed lovely, leg in a big white cast. The three bastards in their tuxedos flank her. Close up on Colonel Londa, he smiles. He descends the stairs, toward the four saboteurs. They speak in German, subtitled in English.
Fräulein von Hammersmark, what has befallen Germany's most elegant swan?
Colonel Londa, it's been years. Dashing as ever, I see.
Flattery will get you nowhere, Fraulein.
They chuckle and air kiss.
What happened to your lovely leg? A byproduct of kicking ass in German cinema, no doubt.
Oh, save your flattery, you old dog. I know too many of your former conquests to fall for into that honeypot.
Chuckle, chuckle.
Seriously, what happened?
Well, I tried my hand foolishly, I might add, at mountain climbing. This was the result.
Mountain climbing? That's how you injured your leg? Mountain climbing?
Believe it or not, yes, it is.
A brief moment passes between the two. Then the colonel bursts out with uproarious laughter. So uproarious, in fact, that it's quite disconcerting to the four saboteurs. The colonel begins to regain his composure.
Forgive me, Fraulein. I didn't mean to laugh at your misfortune. It's just mountain climbing, a curious Fraulein. What could you ever compel to undertake such a foolhardy endeavor?
The double meaning is not lost on the German actress.
Well, I shan't be doing it again, I can tell you that.
Oh, that cast looks as fresh as my old Uncle Gustav. When were you climbing this mountain last night?
Very good, Colonel. It happened yesterday morning.
And what exactly in Paris is this mountain?
This stops her for a second, but then Landa laughs it off, taking them off the hook.
I'm just teasing you, Fraulein. You know me. I tease rough. And so who are your three handsome escorts?
I'm afraid neither of them three speak a word of German. They are friends of mine from Italy. This is the wonderful Italian stuntman, Antonio Margheriti, a very talented cameraman, Enzo Guglielmi, and Enzo's camera assistant, Dominic De Coco.
The German Fraulein turns to the three tuxedo-wearing bastards.
Gentlemen, this is not friend Colonel Hans Landa of the SS.
The bastards know only too well who Landa the Jew hunter is, but they can't show it. Aldo sticks out his hand.
Buongiorno.
The German takes his hand.
Margarete. Am I saying it correctly? Margarete.
Si, correcto.
Margarete. Say it once. Say it for me once, please.
Margarete.
Margarete.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, again?
Margarete.
And scusi com'è?
Margarete.
Margarete. Means daisies, I believe.
He turns his gaze to Donnie.
And what is your name again?
Gorlami.
Scusi com'è?
Gorlami.
One more time, but let me really hear the music in it.
Gorlami.
Now on to Hirschberg.
And you?
Then Hirschberg breaks out the best Italian accent of the group.
Dominic De Coco.
Dominic De Coco?
Dominic De Coco.
Oh, bravo.
My two cameraman friends need to find their seats.
Landa stops a waiter with a tray of champagne glasses.
Oh, that's so fast. Let's enjoy some champagne.
Everyone gets a glass.
Mademoiselle Memieux, please join us. I have some friends I'd like you to meet.
Shoshana joins the circle and is handed a champagne glass. This is the first moment the bastards are aware of Shoshana.
Mademoiselle, you look divine.
Okay.
No. This lovely young lady is Mademoiselle Emmanuelle Menu. This is her cinema, and this is our hostess for the evening. And Mademoiselle, this the broken and none worse for the wear German goddess is Bridget von Hammersmark.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
I'm afraid my companions don't speak any French, so Italian. This is Antonio, Enzo, and Dominic.
All three of them smile goofy, spaghetti bender smiles.
Actually, Fräulein von Hammersmark's Italian associates need help finding their seats. Perhaps Mademoiselle Memu would be so kind as to escort them.
It would be my pleasure. Let me see your tickets.
Donnie hands her 2 tickets. She indicates for them to follow her. Donnie and Hirschberg both exchange one last look with Aldo, then follow the young French girl into the auditorium. Interior auditorium night. The cinema auditorium is filling up quickly with gray and black uniforms. Shoshana finds the 2 counterfeit Italians their seats. After she points out their seats, she turns to leave. Hirschberg reaches out and grabs her wrist. He looks her in the face and filled with tremendous guilt, because if he's successful tonight, he's going to blow this cute French girl to smithereens. He says,
Grazie.
the cute French girl looks back at the goofy-looking Italian boy with slick-back hair that makes him look kind of Jewish with tremendous guilt, knowing if she's successful tonight, she's going to burn him alive, and says,
Prego.
back to the lobby. Hang on. They begin flicking the lights off and on. A German soldier yells in German.
Take your seats. The show is about to begin. Everybody take your seats.
Colonel Landa, Lieutenant Aldo, and Bridget are still together.
I must call the Fuhrer. He doesn't want to make his entrance until everybody is seated. Come with me, Frau von Hammersmark. The Fuhrer has heard you're here, and he wishes to commend you personally.
Me? Why?
Oh, don't be modest. Everybody is quite taken with your resolve. An accident like you've just experienced, and yet you still show up to an important party event. The Fuhrer was quite eminent in his gratitude. We'll use Mademoiselle Minu's office. I'm afraid I must rob you of your companion. I'm sorry. I'm afraid I must rob you of your companion, but only for a moment.
Yes, apparently the Führer wishes to command me.
I'll wait here for a moment. I promise I won't detain her long.
What are either of them supposed to do? Argue? Colonel Landa goes over to one of the Nazi guards / ushers and whispers in his ear, gesturing towards Aldo, like he's saying, leave the boy alone till we come back. Or is he? Colonel Landa limps Bridget away towards Shoshana's office. As Aldo stands in the lobby, more and more people enter the auditorium, till it's only Aldo and the 6 Nazi guards / ushers in the now vacant lobby. Interior Shoshana's office, night. Shoshana's cinema manager's office. It's small, cluttered, and dominated by a desk. They both enter. Colonel Landa closes the door behind him and locks it. Bridget notices, but says nothing. Now the 2 Germans are alone.
Have a seat, Fraulein.
Pointing at one lone chair in front of the desk, she lowers herself in the chair. Instead of moving around to the other side of the desk, opposite her, the SS colonel pulls another little chair over and places it in front of the Fraulein. He sits, their knees almost touching. The colonel points to the foot not in the cast.
Let me see your foot.
I beg your pardon?
He pats his lap.
Put your foot on my lap.
Colonel, you embarrass me?
I assure you, Fraulein, my intention is not to flirt.
He's patting his lap with more aggression. The nervous Fraulein lifts up her strappy dress shoe enclosed foot and places it in the colonel's lap. The colonel very delicately unfastens the thin straps that hold the Fraulein's shoe on her foot. He removes the shoe, leaving only the Fraulein's bare foot. Then he removes from his heavy SS coat pocket the pretty dress shoe the Fraulein left behind at La Louisiane. He slips it on her foot. It fits like a glove. Bridget knows she's busted. Colonel Landa smiles and says in English,
What's that American expression? If the shoe fits, you must wear it.
He removes her foot from his lap.
What now, Colonel?
You admit to treachery?
Stares defiant daggers into him.
The only thing I will admit is to resisting you. Sons of bitches, to my last breath.
Resist to your last breath?
Suddenly, Hans lunges forward, putting his strong mitts around Bridget von Hammerschmark's lily-white, delicate neck, and with all the violence of a lion in mid-pounce, squeezes with all of his might. Bridget's face turns tomato red as the veins in her face bulge and her esophagus is crushed in his grip. With a violent yank, he jerks her to the floor. She tumbles out of the chair, Londa never releasing his grip around her throat. Now fully on top of her, he bears down, squeezing the very life out of her. Everything he has, he brings to bear on the elegant lady's neck. Then, to finally finish her off, he begins banging the back of her head hard against the floor. Bang, bang, bang. She's dead. He releases the grip around her throat. His hands are trembling. He rises. Strangling the very life out of somebody with your bare hands is the most violent act a human being can commit. Also, only humans strangle, opposable thumbs being a quite important part of the endeavor. As Hans Landa stands, the sheer violence he had to call on to accomplish this task still surges through him. He tries to gain control of the trembling that is rippling through his body. He takes out a silver SS flask filled with peach schnapps and knocks back a couple of swigs. He holds his hand out in front of him. The trembling is beginning to subside. He picks up the telephone. Into the phone in German, he says,
Inform the Führer, the audience has taken their seats, and we're ready to begin. We are ready to begin.
Step 1 in Hans's master plan. Done. He then dials another number. Interior lobby night. Aldo in the lobby. When he's jumped by the 6 Nazi ushers. He's thrown roughly to the ground, face first. Like the modern-day Secret Service, within seconds his wrists are handcuffed behind his back and he's searched. They find a bomb attached to his ankle. It's removed, and a cloth bag is pulled over his head. He's hoisted up and rushed out of the building. This happens in mere seconds, and quietly, too. No one in the auditorium is none the wiser. Interior auditorium, night, including Donowitz and Hirschberg, sitting among the master race, waiting for showtime. Exterior cinema, night. The 6 Nazi soldiers hustle the hooded Aldo down the red carpet and into the alley beside the cinema. Aldo's put up against a wall. Inside the black hood, he's screaming every insulting thing about Germany, Germans, German food, German shepherd, anything.
Shut up!
The faceless black hood does. Colonel Landa, now standing directly in front of his hooded prisoner, says in English,
As Stanley said to Livingstone, Lieutenant Aldo Rain, I presume?
Hans Landa.
You've had a long run, Aldo. Alas, you're now in the hands of the SS, my hands to be exact. And they've been waiting a long time to touch you.
Heyo. He reaches out with his finger and lightly touches Aldo's face right in the middle of the hood. Aldo's head violently flinches.
Got you flinching.
In German, he orders the men to put Aldo in the back of a truck. Aldo, bound and bagged, is put in the truck. Also in the truck is Yudovich, wearing a makeshift chauffeur's uniform, bound and bagged like the lieutenant. The truck drives off. Colonel Landa turns around and sees from a distance Hitler's motorcade pull up to the cinema. Then the Führer, Goebbels, Francesca, and the rest of the entourage make their way down the red carpet into the cinema. Landa smiles. Exterior truck moving, night. We see the truck leaving the city of Paris under the veil of night. We also seem to be leaving the drama of Operation Keno. Interior truck moving, night. The 2 hooded prisoners bounce along in the back of the truck. Yudovich is crying inside his hood.
Yudovich?
Is that you, Lieutenant?
Yep.
Well, do you know what happened to Donnie Hirschberg, the woman? Do you know what happened to Donnie Hirschberg, or the woman?
No, I do not.
Lieutenant, I'm sorry, I'm crying.
Nothing to be sorry about, son. This bag can't get to anyone. This bag can't get to anyone.
Not exactly John Wayne, am I?
John Wayne's a pampered movie star. Bursts in tears as his cook busts his yolk at breakfast. Just try putting a bag over his head and hear what kind of sounds he makes.
Yudovich giggles through the tears.
I just want you to know, son, I was real proud of you tonight. Learned how to drive overnight. Driving in that limo line. You was in that hot seat, son. You stood up real good.
Yudovich cries louder. Aldo takes his foot, finds Yudovich's foot, and places his foot on top. scotch has a slightly calming effect on Yudovich. In the darkness, Yudovich has reclaimed his dignity. Exterior country tavern, night. The truck pulls up to a small tavern outside of Paris, not La Louisiane. The two hooded prisoners are walked inside the establishment. Interior country tavern, night. The hooded men are led into the closed for business but open for something else, rustic tavern. The Nazi guards unlock the handcuffs, then sit them down in chairs. Then, simultaneously, the hoods are yanked off. The two prisoners are seated at a table in what they can now see as a rustic tavern. On the table is one telephone, one bottle of Chianti, and 3 glasses. And on the opposite end of the table sits Colonel Hans Landa. A Nazi soldier sits posted at an impressive-looking two-way radio set up in the tavern. Colonel Landa starts in right away at the two baffled, discombobulated American soldiers. They will only speak English in the scene.
Italian? Really? What could you possibly been thinking?
Well, I speak a little Italian.
Speak a little Tagalog. But I would begin to presume I could pass for Filipino. Don't get me wrong. I understand you were in a pickle. What with you losing your Germans? And I have nothing but admiration for improvisation. Still, Chico Marx is more convincing. If the three of you had shown up at the premiere dressed in woman's attire, it would have been more convincing.
Landa's eyes go to the two Nazi guards behind the prisoners.
You may leave us, but stay alert outside.
They exit, leaving the colonel, the lieutenant, the private, and a German radio man in the corner.
So you're Aldo the Apache.
So you're the Jew hunter.
Jew hunter. I'm a detective. Damn good detective. Finding people is my specialty. No, so naturally I worked with the Nazis finding people. And yes, some of them were Jews, but Jew hunter. Just a name that stuck.
You have to admit, it is catchy.
Do you control the nicknames your enemies bestow on you? Aldo the Apache and the Little Man?
What do you mean, the little man?
The German's nickname for you.
The German's nickname for me is the little man?
Or the little one. Either one means you. And as if to make my point, I'm a little surprised I told you out in real life. I mean, a little fellow, but not circus little, as your reputation would suggest.
Where are my men? Where is Bridget Van Hammersmack?
Bridget Van Hammersmack. Oh, I'm sure she is in whatever big bubbling cesspool in hell the devil reserves for traitors of her ilk. Well, let's just say she got what she deserved. And when you purchase friends like Bridget Van Hammersmack, you get what you pay for. Now, as far as your Pasinos, Sergeant Donowitz and Private Hirschberg.
You know our names.
Lieutenant Aldo, if you think I wouldn't interrogate every single one of our swastika survivors. We simply aren't operating on the level of mutual respect, I assumed. Now, back to the whereabouts of your two Italian saboteurs. At this moment, both Hirschberg and Donowitz should be sitting in the very seats we left them in, seats 0023 and 0024, if my memory serves. Explosives still around their ankles, still ready to explode, and your mission, some would call it terrorist plot, as of this moment, is still a go.
You bastards don't believe this. It can't be true.
It's a pretty exciting story. What's next? Liza on ice?
However, all I have to do is pick up that phone right there and phone the cinema, and your plan is kaput.
If they're still there, and if they're still alive. And that's one big if. There ain't no way you're gonna take them boys without sending off them bombs.
I have no doubt. And yes, some Germans will die, and yes, it will ruin the evening, and yes, Goebbels will be very, very, very mad at you for what you did to it, what you have done on his big night. But you won't get Hitler, you won't get Goebbels, you won't get Göring, and you won't get Bormann. And you need all four to end the war. But if I don't pick up that phone right there, you may very well get all four. And if you get all four, you end the war tonight.
The Nazi colonel lifts up the bottle of Chianti and fills 3 glasses. As he pours, he says,
So, gentlemen, let's discuss the prospect of ending the war tonight.
All 3 have their Chianti-filled glasses.
I see it, since Hitler's death, or possibly rescue, rests solely on my reaction. If I do nothing, It's as if I'm causing his death even more than yourselves. Would you agree?
I guess so.
How about you, Yudovich?
I guess so too.
Good. We more or less all agree, gentlemen, and have no intention. And I have no intention of killing Hitler, killing Goebbels, killing Göring, and killing Bormann, not to mention winning the war single-handedly for the Allies, only later to find myself standing before a Jewish tribunal.
Now they get it.
And if you want to win the war tonight, we have to make a deal.
What kind of deal?
The kind you wouldn't have the authority to make. However, I'm sure this mission of yours has a commanding officer, a general, I'm betting, for OSS, would be my guess.
Aldo's eyebrows revealed I was a good guess.
Ooh, that's a bingo! Is that how you say it? That's a bingo.
You just say bingo.
Bingo! How fun! But I digress. Where were we? Oh, yes, make a deal. Oh, there is a very capable two-way radio, and sitting behind it is more than capable radio operator named Herman. Get me somebody on the other end of that radio with the power, the pen to authorize my, let's call it, the terms of my conditional surrender. If that tastes better going down.
Back to the premiere. Shoshana is in the booth. She brings down the lights. In the packed, excited auditorium, the house lights go down. Close up on the curtain switch, she flips it. In the auditorium, the red velvet curtains part. Shoshana throws the lever on the first projector. The projector bulb goes hot white, projecting a beam. The film reels rotate. 35mm film moves to the projector's film gate. The opening seal of a film by the Third Reich flickers on the screen. Goebbels and Francesca watch. Hitler watches. Frederick watches. Donowitz and Hirschberg watch. Shoshana in the booth watches through the little window. The camera pans off of Shoshana to the clearly marked film can Reel 4, the surprise reel. Back to Londa and the Basterds. Londa, with radio headphones over his ears and a microphone in his hand, talks to the unseen/unheard American brass on the other end.
So, when the military history of this night is written, it would be recorded that I was part of Operation Keno from the very beginning as a double agent. Anything I've done in my guise as an SS colonel was sanctioned by the OSS as a necessary evil to establish my cover with the Germans. And it was my placement of Lieutenant Rain's dynamite in Hitler's Goebbels opera box that assured their demise. And by the way, that last part is actually true.
Flash on Londa placing a bomb in Hitler and Goebbels' opera box. Back to Londa.
I want my full military pension and benefits under my proper rank. I want to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor for my invaluable assistance in toppling the Third Reich.
He looks over and sees Aldo and Yudovich watching the one-sided conversation.
In fact, I want all the members of Operation Keno to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor. Full citizenship for myself, but that goes without saying. And I would like the United States of America to purchase the property for me on Nantucket Island as reward all the countless lives I've saved by bringing the tyranny of the National Socialist Party to a swifter than imagined end. Do you have all that, sir? I look forward to seeing you face to face as well, sir. Oh, he's right here.
Colonel hands the headphones and microphone to Aldo.
Yes, sir.
We hear the voice on the other end of the radio give Aldo his orders.
Colonel Landa will put you and Private Ludovich on the truck as his prisoners. He and the radio operator will get in the truck, drive you to the lines. Upon crossing our lines, Colonel Landa and his men will surrender to you. You'll then take over driving of the truck and bring them straight to me for debriefing. Is that clear, Lieutenant?
Yes, sir.
Conversation is over. He puts the radio down. The three men look at one another. Londa picks up his wine.
So I suppose the only left to do is lift the glass and toast to Donowitz and Hirschberg's success. You two, Herman, come over here.
Four men, Colonel Hans Londa, Lieutenant Aldo Rehm, Private Smithson Yudovich, and Herman lift up 4 glasses of wine.
Gentlemen, to history and its witnesses.
Cheers! Back to the premiere. We cut to the black and white film on screen. Frederick Zoller, playing himself, is in an ornamental tower in a Russian village, picking off Russian soldiers below. A Russian General Kalavansky peering at the German private through binoculars. He lowers the long-range glasses and confers with one of his officers.
That is it at all?
47? So far? We hear a shot. 48, General, I implore you, we must destroy that tower.
That tower is one of the oldest and most beautiful structures in Russia. I won't be responsible for turning down 1,000 years of history into dust.
A brave Russian soldier tries to run between two buildings. Zoller gets him, then proceeds to pick him apart one bullet at a time. Shoshana is in the projection booth. She moves reel 4, the special Shoshana reel, and prepares it on the second projector. Reel 3 on the first projector, playing now, is halfway through. In a few short minutes, it's going to be showtime. Marcel says to Shoshana in French, subtitled in English.
It's time. I should go lock up the auditorium and take my place behind the screen.
This is the last time they will ever see each other. Too much to say. He holds her in his arms and lays one kiss before I die, wet one on her. Donowitz and Hirschberg sit in their seats watching the movie, surrounded by dress uniformed Nazis. They've developed a dopey way of communicating with each other in this hostile environment. Basically speaking English as if it were gibberish Italian, they say English words, only adding an I or A or O to the end of it, and saying it in an exaggerated Italian accent, complete with pantomimes. Donowitz leans into Hirschberg and says in a whisper, they speak in Italian-ish, subtitled in English.
I go to toilet, set the boom. When I go out, you set the boom.
Hirschberg indicates / pantomimes that he can't set his bomb surrounded by all these Nazis. Donowitz pantomimes crossing his legs and setting the bomb on his ankle in his seat, then getting up and dropping it in the back of the auditorium in the dark. Hirschberg doesn't get it.
What?
Donnie pantomimes again, more exaggerated and with less patience.
Affirmito, affirmito.
They look at the screen, no? Not you.
Fantastico.
After there is it 5 a moment. You.
What?
Confusing. What say mo?
Zorro, I met what?
After there, you set the bomb. 5 a moment, you will get that fucker.
Affirmato.
The laga.
Donowitz stands up from his seat and walks out of the dark auditorium into the lobby. The Nazi guards / ushers are gone, and the lobby is completely empty. Seeing the stairs leading down to the water closet / bathroom, he descends them to plant the bomb. Descending the stairs leading to the water closet. Like a lot of old cinemas, not only was the water closet located under the auditorium, but it passed through a rather large smoking lounge to get to it. In the smoking lounge are 10 Nazi enlisted men. The guards / ushers for the event, smoking and indulging in soldiers' gossip. They're all in dress uniforms and all are armed. Donowitz in his tuxedo acts cool and walks right through them. They look up but don't disturb their time-off vibe. Donnie enters the big water closet. Except for one lone Nazi enlisted man at the urinal, it would appear as if Donnie has the whole washroom to himself. He enters the privacy of a toilet stall and locks the door. Marcel is in the lobby. He descends the stairs leading down from the projection booth into the empty lobby. He goes to one of the auditorium doors and peers inside. We see the screen and the audience from Marcel's POV in the back of the room. The audience seems riveted to Frederick's exploits on screen. Marcel closes the door and with a key, deadbolts it shut. Inside the auditorium, we pan off the screen to Marcel, who locks the 2 doors on either side of the screen. Due to curtains placed there, no one notices Marcel's actions. Marcel then goes behind the screen. We see the image backward of Frederick's sniper battle huge, covering the entire side of the room. A pile of over 300 nitrate film prints lies like a junk pile right behind the screen. Sitting down in a wooden chair facing the screen and pile of film, he lights up a cigarette, an absolute no-no in a cinema of this era, but tonight, what does it matter? He smokes and waits for his cue to burn it down. Frederick is in the opera box alongside Hitler, Goebbels, Francesca, and Bormann. On screen, the battle rages. He leans over and whispers something in Goebbels' ear we can't quite hear. Goebbels makes a very sympathetic face, at least sympathetic for Goebbels, and says in German, "Perfectly understandable, dear boy. You go now, and we'll see you after the show." He exits the stage He exits the opera box and walks to the projection booth. He raps on the door in a trying to be amusing way. The door opens just a little bit. Shoshana, not friendly, stares at him. He, as usual, is all smiles and charm. They speak in French, subtitled in English.
Are you the manager of the cinema? I want my money back. The actor in this movie stinks.
He laughs. She doesn't even smile. She says, all serious business.
What are you doing here?
I came to visit you.
Can't you see how busy I am?
Then allow me to lend an assist.
Frederick, it's not funny. You can't be here. It's your premiere. You need to be out there with them.
As Frederick prepares to tell his little tale with all the charm at his command, Shoshana listens, knowing the third reel is just about over and her big reel change is coming up.
Normally you would be right, and for all of the films I do, I intend to endure evenings like tonight in proper spirit. However, the fact remains that this film was based on my military exploits, and in this case, my exploits consisted of me killing many men. Consequently, this part of the film that's playing now, I don't like watching this part.
Frederick, I'm sorry, but
So I thought I'd come up here and do what I do best. Annoy you. I can look on your face and prepare I haven't lost my touch.
Donnie is in the toilet. Sergeant Donowitz, with bomb in his lap, sets the timer for 6 minutes from now. He then places the bomb in the back of the toilet tank. Camera on the floor of the water closet. We see the tile of the floor stretch out before us. We see Donnie's feet in the closed toilet stall. We hear the off-screen Nazi enlisted man finish his piss. Then his shoes walk through frame. We follow them to the sink. We stay on the shoes. As we hear the soldier wash his hands, then the camera rises up his pant leg till we're eye level with the German soldier with an army cap on his head who's done washing his hands. Then the soldier removes his cap, brushes some bangs out of his face, and we see the swastika hand carved into his forehead, the undeniable mark of the Basterds. He splashes some water on his face, puts his cap back on his head, and joins his comrades in the smoking lounge. As he exits the frame, he says to somebody off screen, "Hey, Fritz, you owe me 3 cigarettes. Now pay up." Shoshana and Frederick. Frederick is still outside the doorway, and Shoshana is still bearing the way.
I have to get prepared for the real change.
Let me do it?
No.
Oh, please. It's been 2 years since I've done a real change.
Said no.
Come on, it's my premiere.
You're so used to the Nazis kissing your ass, you've forgotten what the word no means? No, Frederick, you can't come in here. Now go away.
No subtitles for Frederick needed this time. He gets it. He does a one-armed pile-drive push on the door, knocking both it open and Shoshana back into the room. Frederick, a different cat than we've seen up till now, enters the booth, closing the door behind him and locking it. The quite startled Shoshana says to Frederick,
Frederick, you hurt me.
It's quite nice to know you can feel something, even if it's just physical pain.
Frederick steps forward. Shoshana steps backward.
I'm not a man you say go away to. There's over 300 dead bodies in Russia that, if they could, would testify to that. After what I've done for you, you disrespect me at your peril.
Back to the washroom. The swastika forehead soldier gets a light for his cigarette. He takes a big drag. From the soldier's POV, he faces the washroom, and down that long row, he sees Donnie emerge from the toilet stall. His tuxedo jacket is off and draped over his right hand. Sporting the white dress shirt and black tuxedo vest, he's quite far away. So now he just looks like some guy in a tux who just finished taking a shit. Donnie walks toward us. Close up on the swastika forehead, seeing him get closer. From the soldier's POV, Donnie gets closer. Close up on the swastika forehead, seeing him closer still. From the soldier's POV, Donnie gets closer. Close up on the swastika forehead, beginning to notice. From the soldier's POV, Donnie is getting closer. He begins to notice the German soldier notice him. Close up on the swastika forehead. Now Donnie is close enough for the soldier to recognize. His face screams, "Sepaju!" The soldier's gun is out of its holster and rising toward Donnie's chest, when Donnie raises his right arm with the tuxedo jacket on it and fires a gun concealed under it, hitting swastika forehead in the chest, who finishes raising his gun, firing, hitting Donnie in the chest. The two soldiers fire into each other, till their weapons are empty and the two men lie dead on the floor. The 10 other Nazis in the room stand shocked at what just happened in front of them. Back to Shoshana and Frederick in the projection room. Frederick hears the gunshots below them and turns toward the door.
What was that?
While Frederick's back is turned, Shoshana takes a gun out of her pocket and shoots Frederick 3 times in the back. He crashes hard into the door, then falls face first to the floor. Shoshana, gun in hand, looks out the projection booth window into the audience. The on-screen battle rages so loudly with gunfire that her weapon didn't stand a chance of being heard. Her eyes go from the audience up to the big screen, which holds Frederick Zoller in a tight, handsome close-up. The face on the silver screen breaks the young girl's heart. She looks to his body. lying face down on the floor, blood flowing from the holes she put in his back. His body moves a little, and he lets out a painful moan. Dying though he is, at this moment Frederick is still alive. Shoshana moves to him. She touches him. He lets out another moan. She turns his body over on its back. He's holding a Luger in his hand. He fires twice. Bang, bang. 2 bullets hit her point blank in the chest, throwing her against the wall, then falling forward on her knees to the floor. Frederick, Luger still in hand, takes aim from the floor. Fires, hitting the bloody girl on the floor, in the thigh, spinning her body around in agony. Like he did to the Russian on screen, he picks her apart, 1 bullet at a time. Fires. A bullet blows off the heel of her foot. The Luger drops to the floor. Frederick dies. Our young French Jewish heroine lies on the projection booth floor in a pool of her own blood, her body riddled with bullets, her nerve endings racked with pain, crippled and dying. When the little bell on the first projector starts to ring, informing the projectionists it's time for the real change. Dying or not, if Shoshana intends to get her revenge, she's going to have to lift her ass off the floor and execute this fucking real change. In the cinema auditorium, the battle on screen continues. The audience is riveted. The Führer watches, completely caught up in this dramatic spectacle. He says to Goebbels in German, "Extraordinary, Joseph, simply extraordinary. This is your finest film yet." Goebbels is beyond proud. He smiles to Francesca, who proudly pats his hand. Back in the projection booth, Shoshana, bloody, crippled, and fucked with great and painful effort, pulls herself off the floor. In the auditorium, Hirschberg, sitting in his seat, sets the bomb on his ankle, then stands up and begins scooting past everybody in his rose knees. In the projection booth, like the German heroine in one of Riefenstahl's mountain films, Shoshana climbs up the 35mm film projector like it was Pitts Paloo. In the film on screen, Private Zoller is firing away from his perch. In the top far right corner of the frame, we see the first real change mark. In the projection booth, Shoshana is hanging onto the projector, waiting for the second real change mark. It's an agonizing effort. Behind the screen, Marcel, smoking, waiting for his cue. Hirschberg gets out of his row and begins walking up the aisle in the middle of the cinema toward the exit. On screen, Sergio Leone close up on Frederick. He screams to the Russians below.
Who wants to send a message to Germany?
In the top right of the frame, the second real change mark pops on. In the projection booth, Shoshana tosses herself to the floor as she throws the changeover switch on the second projector. Extreme close-up on the projector bulb, blasting white in her face. Slow motion, Shoshana following. Extreme close-up on the 35mm film moving. Shoshana hits the dusty ground hard, not in slow motion. The projector beam shoots out of the little projection booth window and hits the screen. Close-up on Shoshana on the floor, eyes closed, her last breath blown into the dusty projection booth floor, like her family before her, dead from Nazi bullets. In the auditorium, on the silver screen, Frederick's extreme close-up. Cut to, on the silver screen matching Shoshana, another extreme close-up. Camera in the exact same placement, same background, black and white sky, slight low angle looking up. So on screen, Shoshana is looking down on the Nazis, the way Frederick was looking down on the Russians. The way this huge image of Shoshana's giant face stares down the auditorium of Nazis brings to mind Orwell's 1984 Big Brother. Hitler and Goebbels react. Hirschberg is standing in the middle of the aisle. He turns toward the screen. When he sees Shoshana's giant face, he's gobsmacked. Behind the screen, Marcel is sitting in the chair with his cigarette before the even more giant face of Shoshana. Shoshana's giant face on screen stares down the packed house of Nazis and says in French,
I have a message for Germany. I'm interrupting your Nazi propaganda horseshit to inform you despicable German swine that you're all going to die.
Hitler and Goebbels react. Hirschberg reacts. Marcel smiles.
I want you to look deep in the face of the Jew who's going to do it.
The auditorium audience. While the shocked German audience is transfixed to the screen, behind the heads of most of them, the bomb Landesset in Hitler and Goebbels' opera box explodes, blowing to smithereens Hitler, Francesca, and Bormann, and propelling Goebbels, still in his theater seat, across the auditorium into the opposite wall and taking out a portion of the ceiling as well. The crowd reacts. The explosion causes the huge chandelier from Versailles to topple from its jury-rigged placement and crash onto the audience below. On screen, the giant face of Shoshana finishes her war cry.
My name is Shoshana Dreyfus, and this is the face of Jewish vengeance. Marcel, burn it down.
Behind the screen, Marcel takes a cigarette and flicks it into the pile of nitrate film. Oui, Shoshana. On screen, Shoshana's giant face laughs maniacally at the scrambling little Nazis, running in a panic as flames like out of a giant blast furnace, burst through Shoshana's face and climb up the walls of the cinema. The audience stampedes toward the exits. Hirschberg, with bomb set on ankle, is caught in the massive Day of the Locust swarm of bodies. People frantically pound on locked doors, trapping them to their grisly fate. The flames and fires spread through the auditorium. Hirschberg, caught in the people crunch, knows this is it. His ankle bomb goes off right underneath everybody in the room. The effect this has on the people in the room is very similar to that of the effect an M80 blowing up in an anthill would have on the ants. The auditorium is a literal red rain of legs, arms, heads, torsos, and asses. Then Donowitz's toilet bomb blows up underneath the auditorium, collapsing the cinema and blowing out the front of the theater. As Madame Mimieux's cinema burns, these subtitles appear on screen as if on a military teletype. Operation Keno a complete success. Fade out. Fade up. Hitler dead. Goebbels dead. Bormann dead. Göring dead. Zoller dead. Most of High Command dead. Fade out, fade in. 4 days later, Germany surrenders. Fade out, fade in. Once upon a time in Nazi-occupied France. Cut to exterior woods morning. It's a misty early morning in a woodsy area. The German truck with Aldo and Udovich in the back and Londa and Herman in the front comes to a stop. Londa and Herman in the truck cab. Herman behind the wheel tells Londa in German.
These are the American lines, sir.
In the back of the truck sit the two last remaining members of the Basterds, Lieutenant Aldo Rain and Private Smithson Udovich, both with their hands cuffed behind their backs. Londa and Herman appear at the truck rear. Londa says in English,
Okay, gentlemen, you can climb down.
Aldo and Udovich climb down from the truck. Colonel Londa indicates for Herman to remove the handcuffs from the two prisoners. He does.
Herman, hand them your weapon.
He does. Colonel Londa hands over his Luger and his very cool-looking SS dagger.
I am officially surrendering myself over to you, Lieutenant Rain. We are your prisoners.
Thank you very much, Colonel. Udovich, cuff the Colonel's hand behind his back.
Oh, is that really necessary?
As Udovich cuffs the Colonel's hands behind his back, Aldo says,
I'm a slave to appearances.
Then Aldo takes the Luger and shoots Herman dead. The bound Colonel Londa is appalled.
Are you mad? What have you done? I made a deal with you with that man's life.
Yeah, they made that deal. They don't give a fuck about him. They need you.
You're to be shot for this.
Nah, I don't think so. More like I'll be chewed out. I've been chewed out before. You know, Udovich and myself heard that deal you made with the brass and the war tonight. I'd make that deal. How about you, Udovich? You make that deal?
I'd make that deal.
I don't blame you. Damn good deal. And that pretty little nasty feather for yourself? If you're willing to barbecue the whole high command, I suppose that's worth certain considerations. Now, I don't care about you getting pensions, merit badges, ticker tape parades. Who gives a damn? Let's all go home. But I do have one question. When you go to your little place on Nantucket Island, I imagine you're going to take off that handsome-looking SS uniform, ain't you?
For the first time in the movie, Colonel Londa doesn't respond.
That's what I thought. Now that, I can't abide. How about you, Udovich? Can you abide it?
Not one damn bit, sir.
I mean, if I had my way, you'd wear that goddamn uniform for the rest of your peck-a-second life. I'm aware that ain't practical. I mean, at some point, you gotta have to take it off.
He opens Londa's SS dagger and holds the blade in front of Hans's face.
So I'm gonna give you a little something you can't take off.
Close up on Colonel Londa. The dagger has just completed carving a swastika deep into his forehead. From Colonel Londa's POV on the ground, looking up at Aldo, bloody knife in hand, who straddles him, and Udovich, who's next to him, the two Basterds admire Aldo's handiwork. Aldo turns to Udovich and says,
You know something, Udovich? I think this just might be my masterpiece.
They ghoulishly giggle. Cut to written and directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Wow, great job. Great job, everyone. Oh my God, I wasn't recording. Just kidding. That'd be class. Anyways, the secret of the universe is